All right, you and I are about to dive into a crazy apocalypse scenario where our main character gets completely betrayed because of some pretty legs. They save a gorgeous woman under the guise of being helpful, but she was actually a spy for their enemies, and she secretly unlocked the gates in the middle of the night. Now he is literally dangling over a pit of monsters while his girl is hugging another dude and laughing at him. His loyal allies are slaughtered on the floor, and honestly, it is all his own fault for falling for her tricks. All he can do is curse her name and wish for her painful demise. But she does not care because she has a rich protector. The fat boss mocks him, grabs his supplies, and drops him straight into a pit of flesh-eating monsters. He wanted a piece of that girl, but ended up as zombie food instead. As he died, he swore that if he ever got a second chance, he would make them all suffer. Suddenly, he wakes up in the past. And guess what? Those legs are right there again. The second he wakes up, this greedy girl demands 400,000 for her wedding dowry. But this time around, things are going to change. He will not fall for her tricks again. Honestly, knowing how these stories go, he will probably get tempted again later. But hey, who among us would not fall for a looker? He wants to destroy her right now, but that is too easy. Instead, he just kicks her out on the street. She is completely shocked because her loyal little lapdog just became an absolute beast. He has exactly 1 month before the world ends, and this time, a broken cheat system activates to give him massive rewards. He can trade points for overpowered supply drops and physical buffs. First, he opens a food delivery app and orders an absolute feast. In his past life, he starved for years. Just as he is about to dig in, his phone rings. It is his ex-girlfriend's annoying friend calling to bother him. He basically tells her to get lost and slams the phone down. Now, stick with me here, because his next move is to buy land and build an absolute giant fortress. Later that day, he visits a real estate agency. A nice clerk tries to help him, but her annoying boss shows up and starts yelling at her to go unload delivery trucks instead. The girl tries to explain, but her boss calls our hero a broke loser. He even brags that if this guy buys even a bathroom, he will eat garbage live on camera. Xiao Yang laughs and pulls out his card to buy land. Everyone freezes in pure shock because land is incredibly expensive. The helpful clerk leads him over and shows him various properties. But he stops her, saying he has very specific requirements that must be met before he signs anything. He needs land near mountains, running fresh water, and containing massive unfinished factories. The girl thinks it is weird but agrees to check her files. The smug manager chimed in, saying there is a perfect spot in the East District, but scoffed that a poor guy could never afford it. Xiao Yang asks if the area matches his needs, and even though the factories are incomplete, he decides to buy the property on the spot. He pays 300,000 immediately, telling the girl to rush the paperwork so their manager can start eating his fresh garbage. The boss completely loses his mind. Before leaving, he tells the boss to stream his meal live. Other customers laugh, promising to record the whole thing, and one even joked about donating fresh leftovers. Just like that, his first quest is complete using his wedding savings. But suddenly, the massive guy who killed him in his past life walks right past him. He wonders what his future enemy is doing here. But look closely at his face, payback is coming, and it is going to be brutal. Meanwhile, the toxic ex-girlfriend gets a call from her friend, warning her that Xiao Yang is spending massive amounts of cash on real estate. She demands to know where he got that kind of cash, and her friend suggests he use their wedding savings. She goes ballistic, claiming it is her money. Her friend tells her to go confront him directly. Meanwhile, our hero is already planning his next moves, but cash is running extremely tight. He needs millions for supplies and construction. Suddenly, a massive banging hits his door. It is not the cops, just his annoying ex and her friend screaming about the money. He acts confused, but she cuts him off immediately. She accuses him of stealing her wedding fund and demands he hand over the deed to the land. He laughs at her audacity, throws a pile of cash at her face, and reveals he knows she has been sleeping with some old rich guy named Shu Chang. She freezes in shock. Her best friend tries to play it off as a simple lover's quarrel, but Xiao Yang directly exposes her for cheating with a gross sugar daddy. He slams the door in their faces, but instead of feeling guilty, she is just furious about how he uncovered her secret affair. The friend is secretly disgusted to learn about the old man, but she realizes they have lost all leverage over him. They will need to scheme a brand new way to get his cash. Her motive is simple. She wants our rich hero for herself, and this breakup is her perfect chance to swoop in and steal him. Leaving them to argue, Xiao Yang heads to his new property. The foreman tells him that heavy remodeling and high-tech defense upgrades will take a lot of time. The crazy defensive specs make the workers think he is insane, but he demands they finish in 1 month. The boss claims they do not have the manpower. He mentions that more cash can speed things up, but it will cost 20 million yuan. Xiao Yang does not even blink and asks for confirmation on that price. The boss demands a 5 million deposit. He agrees, promising to transfer it in a week if they start today, leaving the man completely speechless. He even offers the land deed as collateral. The deal is sealed, but their meeting is suddenly crashed by the ex-girlfriend's plotting friend. She acts all sweet and grabs his arm, asking what he is building. He is completely disgusted, remembering how she robbed his family in his past life. He plans to make her pay eventually, but asks what she wants now. She ignores him, asking if he is building a massive luxury villa on the property. Shaking her off, he tells her to mind her own business. This infuriates her, but he completely ignores her anger and tells the crew to widen the main security gates. Extremely annoyed by his cold shoulder, she still hopes to seduce him now that his relationship is entirely ruined. At home, he tries to get a loan against his apartment. It is still not enough cash, so he decides to run multiple massive real estate scams on corrupt buyers before the world ends. Suddenly, heavy pounding hits his door. Trust me, we are going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are jumping right back to his wealthy neighbor, Grandpa Lee, who owns the first 2 floors and wants Xia Yang's apartment too. Originally, Xia Yang kept it for his future wedding home. But after all the chaos, and with the old man constantly nagging him, his plans shift. Grandpa Lee scolds him for going out to party, but Xia Yang just shrugs and denies it completely. Instead of arguing, Xia Yang suddenly agrees to sell the place. That completely flips the old man's mood. He's totally shocked by the quick yes. But Xia Yang has one major condition. His next place won't be ready for 6 months, so he demands 5 million upfront to clear his loans. If Grandpa Lee refuses, Xia Yang is ready to walk away right now. At the last second, the old man agrees, demanding a contract to avoid any issues later. That's perfectly fine with Xia Yang, especially since he knows Grandpa Lee won't even survive the apocalypse. Talk about easy money. He'll soon pocket 5 million from the old man, bringing his total to 8 million with his other cash. Plus, since he completed his first mission requirement, it's finally time to claim that reward. Next, Xia Yang tears through the supermarket, grabbing supplies like a madman. People nearby start whispering and wondering if he's lost his mind. Honestly, can you blame them? He is pushing 7 carts, overflowing with groceries. Other shoppers think he fell for some crazy doomsday rumors online. Xia Yang just ignores the stares and finishes his second task. Now he has to spend those hard-earned points. Boosting stats is tempting, but the main character's toolbox is way better. He purchases it immediately, and a glowing mystery chest materializes. Inside is an overpowered storage ring that keeps items frozen in time. Xia Yang is thrilled with this pull. Now he won't have to worry about tons of food rotting in some warehouse. But the system doesn't stop there. It raises the goal from 1 year of supplies to 10 years, if he wants more points. His massive shopping spree is drawing serious heat now. Now, watch closely, because we are about to meet Yang Tao, an old high school bully who used to torment Xia Yang back in the day. The jerk immediately starts shouting, demanding Xiao Yang put everything back instead of making a scene. Xiao Yang just smiles, noting his old bully hasn't changed. He promises he can pay, but young Tao thinks he is bluffing and demands the cash now. An hour later, 4 cashiers finally finish scanning the mountain of groceries. The total is nearly 57,000 won. Young Tao immediately demands he hand over the card. Xiao Yang calmly swipes his card, and to Young Tao's utter shock, the transaction is approved. Embarrassed, the bully tries to walk away, but Xiao Yang stops him cold. He points out how rude Young Tao was, demanding a sincere apology or he'll refund the entire order. That completely infuriates the bully. He thinks Xiao Yang is looking for a fight, but with phones recording everywhere, the crowd pressures Young Tao to apologize before he goes viral. Xiao Yang calmly reminds him that saying sorry won't kill him. He even promises to buy 10 times more if he gets that apology, believing it's a bluff. Young Tao is stunned when Xiao Yang flashes his massive bank balance and swipes the card again. He cannot believe Xiao Yang has 7 million sitting in his bank account. With 0 ways to save face, Young Tao is forced to bow his head and deliver a humiliated apology. To rub salt in the wound, Xiao Yang pats his head like a dog, warning him to behave. As Young Tao walks away, he asks why he bought so much food, but gets ignored. It is none of his business, but he is planning something massive. Suddenly respectful, the store manager mentions that bulk orders like this need a wholesaler, which instantly gets Xiao Yang's attention. You and I both know how this goes. Young Tao mentions their old gang leader, Shang Jie, and immediately calls him about this major new client. Xiao Yang is amused. This loser is still acting as a lackey after all these years. Soon, Young Tao leads him straight to his old boss to talk business. Suddenly, a car screeches to a halt right next to them. Out steps the arrogant bully from school, Jiang Shengjie, demanding to see this VIP client. Young Tao mentions Xiao Yang was their old classmate, but Shengjie has completely forgotten him. After squinting for a moment, it finally clicks. It's the stubborn kid who always stood up to their gang and refused to follow their rules. Shengjie tries to mock Xiao Yang's cheap outfit, and Xiao Yang just plays dumb about designer brands. This reaction convinces Zheng Shengji that he is a nobody who could never afford a major deal. He literally kicks Yang Tao, bragging he can spot a wealthy man instantly. Xiao Yang just laughs, mocking the boss by saying his aura is too weak to scare anyone. Enraged, Zheng Shengji grabs him by the collar. Xiao Yang does not even blink, calmly repeating his insult. Hilariously, Shengji only gets mad about being called stupid, completely missing the rest. Yang Tao tries to step in and defuse the tension, only to get kicked again. Fuming, Zheng Shengji warns Xiao Yang he is leaving in an ambulance unless he buys a massive order. Xiao Yang remains unfazed and flashes his banking app. The boss is completely stunned. Xiao Yang offers 1 million on the spot as a deposit for a 5 million won order. Suddenly highly interested, Zheng Shengji asks what supplies he needs. Xiao Yang requests anything edible or drinkable. Even with a massive client on the hook, the greedy boss immediately plots to dump expiring stock on him. At the warehouse, Zheng Shengji showcases the inventory, offering a 10% discount if he buys it all. But Xiao Yang is only checking for quality. Opening a random bag, he instantly calls out the scam, pointing out the near expiry dates. Shocked that Xiao Yang knows his stuff, the boss desperately increases the discount to 50% off. Xiao Yang rejects the deal. For 5 million, he demands premium quality. However, he casually mentions he might have a use for that expired junk, leaving the boss totally baffled. Leveraging the massive discount, Xiao Yang takes control of the negotiation. He demands all the expired goods too, on a 1-month payment delay. Zheng Shengji agrees, though he secretly fears Xiao Yang will ghost him once the food rots. Xiao Yang confidently puts his own house up as collateral, making the boss insanely curious about his endgame. Not worried in the slightest, Xiao Yang drops one cryptic hint. In just a few days, even rotten food will be worth its weight in gold. That ominous warning sends chills down the boss's spine. Xiao Yang signs the contract, promises delivery coordinates, and suddenly gets a phone call. A buyer wants to purchase his house right now. He wraps things up at the warehouse and heads out, leaving Yang Tao scratching his head, wondering if they just got completely played. In our next scene, the eager buyer transfers a 400,000 deposit, even letting him stay there rent-free for 3 whole months. Xiao Yang obviously does not care about the future since the world is ending anyway. Still, he is shocked by the buyer's desperation, since the old man did not even inspect the property. Curious, Xiao Yang asks why the rush. The elder explains it's for his beloved granddaughter's school transfer. They fell in love with the neighborhood, prompting this urgent offer. Xiao Yang playfully teases that he should raise the price now, giving the poor old man a mini heart attack. He quickly smiles and promises to honor their deal. Once the contract is signed, the old man thanks him with genuine warmth. Knowing innocent people like them stand zero chance in the brutal apocalypse, Xiao Yang decides to do a good deed, asking for their current address. Next, Xiao Yang heads back to the construction site. His initial deposit cleared, but the project manager is already eager for that second payment. Xiao Yang says the cash is coming and learns the build is 80% done with solid defenses. You and I are definitely going to want to see what happens when the apocalypse hits. Alright, let us dive right back in as Xiao Yang tells Zheng Shengji to send the goods. Soon piles of supplies arrive, and our main character happily hands each worker 2,000 yuan just for their quick labor. While they celebrate, he helps organize, making sure all perishables are stored properly. By evening, the sorting is complete, and Xiao Yang looks over his massive stash with absolute pride. Finally, he has secured 10 years of survival gear, earning 20 more system points. Opening the shop, he spots another mystery box. Best of all, this system lets him unlock insane abilities before the zombie apocalypse even begins. He drops 10 points on the new box and unlocks a skill called Mind's Eye. It lets him instantly detect anyone who harbors bad intentions or hostility. Talk about an absolute cheat code for the coming doom. Next, the system hands him a fresh quest called Armed to the Teeth. His goal is to gather a massive arsenal of weapons, which fits his survival plans perfectly anyway. That night, things take a sketchy turn down at the local black market. Xiao Yang wanders through the crowd, listening to shady dealers hawk antiques. He even spots Shu Qiang arguing loudly with a vendor over the price of a cheap bracelet. Seeing him purchase counterfeit jewelry only proves Xiao Yang right. This creep is a total fraud, and poor Kui Ping has absolutely no clue she's wearing cheap fakes. Scanning the stalls, Xiao Yang finally locks onto something actually useful. He pulls up to a melee weapon vendor and demands the real deal. The seller casually offers a simple knife sharpener or a basic security baton. Xiao Yang tells him he needs weapons far deadlier than plastic toys. The vendor laughs it off, until Xiao Yang instantly transfers 200,000 yuan directly to his account to prove he is dead serious. Suddenly interested, the seller asks him to watch the stall while they head inside to talk business. In the back room, the man pulls out crude homemade guns for 2,000 yuan each, but they are too weak to kill a fly. Xiao Yang immediately rejects them. He needs real firepower to fight zombies, not cheap toys. Next, the dealer shows off a replica revolver worth 5,000 yuan. But pay attention here, because after paying 200,000 up front, Xiao Yang is not impressed. He drops a bomb, telling the shocked seller that 200 grand is just 10% of his total budget. He is ready to spend a staggering 2 million on weapons. That mind-blowing budget leaves the dealer wondering what this kid is planning. But Xiao Yang just tells him to stop wasting time and show the real gear. Ready to show the real goods, the man locks up the room to make sure they are totally alone. He tells Xiao Yang he hit the jackpot, promising to connect him with a top-tier underground military supplier. The actual deal is set for 2 days later. But as Xiao Yang leaves the room, he runs right into Xu Xiang. The arrogant jerk assumes our hero must be selling family heirlooms to survive down here. Xiao Yang ignores the bait and decides to test his brand new skill on this fool. Activating Mind's Eye, he scans the weapon dealer first, finding zero bad intentions. Xu Xiang, however, is radiating pure malice. Xiao Yang casually fires back, saying Kui Jing is a perfect match for those fake bracelets, cheap, trashy, and completely worthless. That savage burn instantly sets the creep off. When the vendor asks if they are friends, Xiao Yang replies that they are actually enemies. Eager to please a 2 million yuan client, the seller immediately offers to rough up the old creep for causing trouble. Xiao Yang walks away satisfied while Xu Xiang whimpers in terror as a gang of thugs surround him with heavy batons. They slam him down and give him a savage beating he won't soon forget. This only fuels his burning hatred for Xiao Yang, prompting him to swear bloody revenge. 2 days later, a truck packed with weapons arrives, completing the quest and rewarding him with a rare physical enhancement potion. This custom elixir has a ×2 multiplier, making it way stronger than normal shop items. Wasting zero time, he fills the syringe and injects himself, immediately boosting his strength past the average human level of 5. His power hits 7 points, a 40% increase. Checking the system store next, he finds only a basic survival kit and another upgrade potion available. Hungry for more power, he buys the second potion and injects that one too. Xiao Yang's strength hits 8 points, 60% above normal human limits. To test his new muscles, he grabs a solid iron rod. Xiao Yang kicks the bar so hard it bends completely, cracking the concrete wall behind it. With physical power like this, those oncoming zombies do not stand a chance. He then stores his entire weapon stash inside his spatial ring. Reviewing his plan, Xiao Yang knows the world ends in just 2 days. He must tie up any remaining loose ends right now, which instantly brings his thoughts back to that kind old tenet. I know what you were thinking. Why help anyone after being betrayed in his past life? But he still wants to protect this family with survival supplies, leaving the rest to fate. Soon, he arrives at the old man's building. Tracking down the address takes some real effort, and walking up the rundown stairs shows just how tough the old man's life is. Standing at the door, he decides to summon the supplies first to make delivery easier. Using the spatial ring, he manifests the food crates in the hallway before knocking. The old man opens up nervously, stuttering an apology about overdue rent, but completely freezes upon recognizing Xiao Yang. The senior is absolutely dumbfounded by the massive pile of boxes. Xiao Yang urges him that there is no time to chat, demanding they carry it all inside immediately. The old man is stunned by our hero's limitless strength. Scanning the small apartment, Xiao Yang decides the place is secure enough. He strictly warns the old man to keep this conversation classified, explaining that the entire world is on the brink of an apocalyptic shift. Suddenly, his eyes lock onto a framed photograph of the old man's granddaughter. He is utterly shocked to recognize her as Shan Shan, a trusted companion from his brutal past life. He demands confirmation, leaving the grandfather baffled as to how this stranger knows her name. Worried, Xiao Yang asks where she is right now, learning she is still at her college town preparing for a transfer. In his past life, they only bonded because she was drowning in guilt over her grandfather's tragic death. The brave old man sacrificed himself to save her, a fate Xiao Yang refuses to let happen again. First, he bluntly tells the senior he cannot stay here. The old man panics, but Xiao Yang quickly calms him down to explain the cold truth. The world ends tomorrow, monsters are coming, and no city is safe. That is why they must rescue Shan Shan immediately before mapping out their next survival base. The old man struggles to process this crazy warning, but Xiao Yang needs him to understand right now. He breaks it down, comparing the disaster to an extreme famine where food is worth more than gold. To prove his words, he casually vanishes all the boxes back into his invisible spatial ring. The old man is completely speechless until Xiao Yang explains he possesses superhuman abilities and has witnessed the future. That is why they must head to the college campus immediately. Next, they are racing down the highway. Pulling up to the campus, they rush inside to hunt for her dormitory. They finally track her down, only to find Shan Shan getting brutally slapped by a jealous girl over some random popular student. Even though Shan Shan pleads that she has no interest in the guy, the bully strikes her again, calling it a pathetic excuse. The pack of bullies mock her quiet attitude, but fortunately, her frantic grandfather finally arrives. The helpless senior begs them to let his granddaughter go, but a group of aggressive students step up to threaten him. Fueled by pure love, the old man bravely charges forward to face three larger punks head-on. One thug swings a heavy baseball bat straight at his skull, but before it connects, Xiao Yang effortlessly catches the weapon. He laughs in their faces, mocking these little kids for playing street gangster. The thugs laugh at his interference, but Xiao Yang answers with a devastating kick that folds the first attacker instantly. The remaining two panic, wondering if this guy is a professional martial artist, but they still try to surround him anyway. The second thug swings his club from a blind angle, but Xiao Yang effortlessly ducks the blow. Thanks to his upgraded stats, his reflexes are godly. He grabs the attacker by the collar and slams him down hard, knocking him out cold. The ringleader tries a desperate sneak attack with a pocket knife, but Xiao Yang pivots smoothly and drives an agonizing kick right into his thigh. The crushing pain drops him to the concrete, sobbing in agony. Honestly, you and I couldn't have asked for a more satisfying ending. He walks over to the bully, giving her a sharp slap to show her the game is over. She stands there, unable to comprehend his sheer power. All right, you and I are jumping right into the chaos. Xiao Yang yanks a bully's hair and presses a cold blade to her throat. She cries out in terror, and with a swift flash, even Shanshan thinks he just killed her. But relax, he just sliced her hair off. She shrieks that she will never forgive him. But Xiao Yang does not give a single care, joking that he did her a favor by shedding some extra weight. He casually tells her she will understand in a few days. Then he grabs Shanshan and says it is time to move, clueless but trusting. She follows him, and soon they are driving away to a new location. Inside the car, Grandpa explains that a massive famine-type disaster is coming. Shanshan is totally skeptical, assuming the old man fell for another scam. Xiao Yang just smiles, watching them bicker back and forth. He is just glad she is happy in this lifetime. Xiao Yang reveals he was the one who gave her grandfather the warning. Since this version of Shanshan has no clue who he is, he introduces himself properly. She thanks him for saving her back there, but Xiao Yang is not worried about those high school bullies. They probably will not even survive the apocalypse. Still, Shanshan is left completely lost and confused. He explains that he only called it a famine so her grandfather could easily grasp it. That gives her a tiny bit of hope until he replaces that word with apocalypse, crushing her optimism instantly. He warns her that the media is already leaking the chaos. Shanshan checks her phone and stumbles onto horrific viral videos of a rabies-like virus that drives infected people to brutally attack everyone in sight. The more footage she scrolls through, the more terrified she gets. Those infected monsters look absolutely hideous. Xiao Yang realizes his predictions were spot on. The end of the world is finally here. Shanshan reads that tomorrow a lethal toxic smog will cover multiple provinces, permanently mutating all living organisms. A massive chunk of humanity will instantly turn into zombies, and their only goal will be to hunt down every single survivor. Worse yet, anyone who dies joins the undead horde, making it grow endlessly. Sure, Shanshan knows what zombies are for movies, but having it happen in real life is just too insane to process. Now pay attention here, because this is where reality starts sinking in. The world will fall apart in a week, but right now, massive traffic. Even the emergency lane is locked up, completely catching Xiao Yang off guard. Stuck in the gridlock, Shanshan panics that zombies might trap them right here on the highway. Xiao Yang calms her down, explaining that the true horror has not actually kicked off just yet. Even so, a mini outbreak could easily spark in a crowded place like this. Suddenly, a reckless driver cuts aggressively between lanes and slams right into the side of Xiao Yang's vehicle. That instantly sets our main character off, so he pulls forward to block the jerk from using the emergency lane. The driver pulls up next to them, screaming like a madman. Realizing it is just some spoiled rich kid driving a Mercedes, Shanshan's grandfather begs him to just let it go, but Xiaoyang refuses to back down. After a tense hour, traffic finally breaks and things seem to calm down. But then Shanshan spots that exact same Mercedes speeding up again to cut them off. Even Xiaoyang is stunned by the guy's sheer stupidity as he pulls ahead just to mock them. Grandpa warns him that it is too dangerous and not to stoop to the punk's level. But Xiaoyang is done playing nice, especially since the coming apocalypse is about to erase all the rules. So he slams his car right into the Mercedes, sending it spinning wildly off the road. The rich guy stumbles out, immediately calling the police to get Xiaoyang arrested. This clown really does not know when to quit. Next, the group arrives at the massive compound Xiaoyang spent months preparing. Even Shanshan's grandfather is left completely speechless by their epic new home. Xiaoyang warns them that tomorrow their lives will change forever, so they should rest up. The next morning, he is enjoying the sun when Shanshan joins him, finally caught up on sleep after her endless classes. Xiaoyang eagerly shows her around his customized fortress. Walking through the halls, he explains how the thick concrete walls and high-tech remote gates will keep any threat from ever breaking in. He sets one ironclad rule: absolutely no one enters the fortress without his direct permission. This makes Shanshan feel a bit uneasy. Does this mean he plans to leave other survivors out there to die? To explain, he takes her to another section, explaining that extreme disasters bring out the worst in humanity. If they show too much kindness to strangers, it will only end up getting them killed. He shows her a secure buffer zone built as a temporary shelter for survivors while he is gone. But he issues another stern warning: never let anyone penetrate the main base. Okay, let's pause for a second. Inside the massive food warehouse, our main character decides to do a little loyalty test. Using his eye of insight, he reads their real intentions to see if they can be trusted. Seeing pure loyalty in their hearts, he is relieved they are on his side. Next, Xiaoyang summons a cache of weapons, handing grandfather a classic shotgun and gifting Shanshan an incredibly powerful crossbow. He warns them to never let these weapons get stolen. Now, turning back to his system mission, Xiaoyang must track down his old partner Jiang Qi, who was a loyal ally in his past timeline. Locating him is the tricky part, but luckily the cheat system pinpoints the exact city Jiang Qi is in. He leaves Shanshan and her grandfather in charge of the base, reminding them to stick strictly to his rules. He heads out to recruit this vital teammate before the global collapse officially begins. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a lively karaoke bar where a group of young students is partying and singing together. Eventually, they head to the restrooms. On the way, Jiang Qi accidentally bumps into a gorgeous girl and quickly apologizes. But her arrogant boyfriend does not care and kicks him right in the gut. Jiang Qi crashes hard onto the floor while his buddy rushes over to help him up. Their friend Four Eyes steps up to confront the bully, but that only infuriates the aggressive thug even more. The bully grabs Four Eyes and starts roughing him up, prompting Jiang Qi to beg him to stop. A nearby waiter notices the commotion. Already suffering from a nasty cold, he is forced to intervene in the fight. The waiter steps between them, but the hot-headed thug grabs him, too. Seizing the distraction, the waiter signals the students to get out. Jiang Qi and Four Eyes instantly take the chance and run. They scramble back to their private room, safe for now. The rest of the gang is shocked by their sudden, panicked entrance. Four Eyes explains they bumped into some thug's girlfriend, got attacked, and barely escaped, thanks to a brave waiter. Hearing this gets the rest of the guys completely fired up, demanding they go back out there and teach those punks a lesson for messing with their crew. Jiang Qi de-escalates the situation, saying revenge is not worth the trouble. But bad news is already at their door. The helpful waiter has been beaten bloody, and the rich punk has gathered 3 more thugs to hunt down Jiang Qi's group. The thug orders his crew to seize them immediately. Terrified, Jiang Qi and Four Eyes curl up to protect themselves. Only one brave soul in their group tries to stand up and speak, but the leader instantly smashes a glass bottle right over his head. This is Chen Chong, and his heroic stand leaves him with blood pouring down his face. Meanwhile, Xiaoyang pulls up outside, knowing this is exactly where Jiang Qi would be. Inside, Chen Chong is unconscious on the floor. With blood pooling around him, he urgently needs a hospital. The main thug looks to his girlfriend, who demands that the idiot who actually bumped into her gets punished next, targeting Jiang Qi. Suddenly, a bleeding Chen Chong musters all his strength and lunges right at the leader. If one of the lackeys had not held him back, Chen Chong would have broken the leader's jaw. Shocked that a student dared to fight back, the leader smashes a second glass bottle over his head. Chen Chong collapses again, leaving his friends screaming in panic. The brutal sight drives Jiang Qi into a pure rage, but the thugs quickly pin him and the others down while their last friend cowers in fear. The battered waiter barely clings to consciousness as the beating continues. He tries to throw a wild punch but completely misses. Suddenly, his entire demeanor shifts. And that is where we leave things today. The infected waiter snaps, biting a thug like a wild animal. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see the pure madness that unfolds in the next episode. Alright, stick with me here as we dive into a crazy zombie outbreak. These thugs try holding down this infected waiter, but he's completely out of control, biting a guy and slamming him hard. Suddenly, out of nowhere, that raging beast gets pinned instantly by a random guy. That is our main character, Xiao Yang, and he calmly tells everyone to quit messing around. Talk about a plot twist. The thugs are totally frozen in shock because this random kid just neutralized the monster with zero effort. The boss demands to know who he is, but Xiao Yang completely ignores him. Instead, he asks Jiang Qi if he's been bitten. He hasn't, but he's incredibly confused. Xiao Yang doesn't explain and just tells him they need to move fast. But the gang leader blocks their exit, refusing to let them walk away. Right then, one of his thugs gets a blinding headache from his bite wound. Instantly, Xiao Yang knows exactly what's happening. The virus is taking over, and this guy is about to turn. Xiao Yang asks if he got bitten on the shoulder by that rabid waiter. The thug shrugs it off, completely clueless. With a bite that close to his brain, the man is already a goner. Xiao Yang doesn't hesitate. He grabs the zombie waiter, hurls him into the bathroom, and kicks the door shut. The monster slams against the wood, but luckily, early-stage zombies are too dumb to grasp doorknobs. With that threat handled, Xiao Yang turns back to the remaining thugs. Xiao Yang gears up to fight and casually asks Jiang Qi which thug he wants him to wreck first. Poor Jiang Qi has no idea who this guy is and is completely lost. Furious at this kid's supreme confidence, the gang leader charges in to shut him up. Bad move. Xiao Yang absolutely embarrasses the boss by grabbing his face and smashing his head straight into the floor. Another infected lackey rushes him, but Xiao Yang drops him with one clean strike. The guy hits the deck, leaving his buddy speechless. A single punch shouldn't do that. Suddenly, the fallen thug starts twitching in agony. Xiao Yang challenges the rest of them to step up. Next, he tells Jiang Qi to take his friends to the private room and wait. Jiang Qi doesn't ask questions. He quickly drags his injured buddy out of there. Seeing how easily their boss got wrecked, the rest of the gang stops acting tough. But Xiao Yang isn't letting them off easy. He calls the leader a drunk idiot who almost killed his friend, and decides it's payback time. He shoves the boss into the room and locks him in. The guy desperately bangs on the door, but it's no use. He is totally trapped inside. Inside, his infected buddy has fully turned and instantly lunges at him. A moment later, Xiao Yang listens to their terrifying screams as they get ripped to shreds. A staff member rushes over, and Xiao Yang tells him to block the door and call the cops about a highly dangerous flu outbreak. The worker freezes in panic until Xiao Yang yells at him, prompting him to quickly lock the door. With that done, Xiao Yang guides Jiang Qi's group out. Back inside, the staff are terrified by the horrifying noises, whispering about a potential rabid flu, though nobody actually understands what is going on. But check this out, because what they see next on the security cameras is absolute nightmare fuel. Everyone inside has already transformed into bloodthirsty monsters, brutally tearing each other apart. Horrified, the staff call the police immediately. Fortunately, Xiao Yang and the crew make it out of the bar, scramble into the car, and speed away into the night. Jiang Qi is incredibly grateful, but he's still completely clueless about his savior. Xiao Yang finally introduces himself, explaining a secret client hired him to keep them safe, but he can't say who. One friend is skeptical, claiming the internet says this flu is fake. Xiao Yang asks if the madness they just witnessed looked fake. Four Eyes nervously asks if there is any cure. Xiao Yang tells him flat out that there is none, and society is about to plunge into absolute chaos. Outbreaks are already popping up everywhere, even if it's currently contained. Countless people are already carrying the virus and will turn soon. If they want to live, they must do exactly what he says. Reluctantly, they all agree. Just then, Xiao Yang gets a system alert. Mission complete. This unlocks new shop items, and the one that really grabs his attention is a post-apocalyptic cultivator box. Since all three boxes look incredible, he decides to open them once they reach his fortress. But he knows he has to build trust first. See, in the past timeline, Jiang Qi's friends died due to a traitor, and that mole is right here. Now, you and I are basically playing a game of Among Us. But before we find the traitor, let's check on Kui Jing. She's too scared to visit the grocery store after watching the news, so she wants all her supplies delivered. Suddenly, a violent banging rattles her front door. Terrified, she hangs up on Xu Xiang, but when she peeks out, she sighs in relief. It's just her best friend, who mentions that their first-floor neighbor was just carted away by an ambulance. He was infected too, which explains why the entire apartment complex is panicking. Her friend asks about the supplies Xu Xiang promised, which still haven't arrived, so she pitches a sneaky idea. They can use Xu Xiang's ego and tell him Xiao Yang has a massive stockpile. Kui Jing asks how she knows, and her friend reveals she had a spy watching him, showing he's been ordering massive shipments. Kui Jing is stunned her ex knew about the end of the world. Her friend urges her to spill everything to Xu Xiang so they can raid Xiao Yang's stash and strike it rich. Meanwhile, back at the base, Jiang Qi is speechless. He never expected to see an actual, high-tech fortress. Xiao Yang admits everyone has that exact reaction. Shan Shan and her grandpa warmly welcome him back, and Xiao Yang introduces his new guests. He tells his crew they'll be living here now, and introduces the hosts. Since there was Xiao Yang, the family welcomes the newcomers with open arms. Xiao Yang asks Grandpa to show them around and explain the rules. Immediately, one of the guys demands weapons to defend themselves. That demand instantly raises Xiao Yang's alarms, knowing a traitor is among them. Four Eyes steps in and tells Yuming to chill out, since asking for guns right away is a bad look. Xiao Yang tells them weapons will come later, but right now they must focus on helping the injured Chen Chong heal. Once inside, they freshen up, but Yiming is furious his friends stopped him from getting weapons. He actually thinks they are prisoners, but Four Eyes points out that Xiao Yang literally just saved their lives, which makes no sense. Still, they are all highly suspicious of this mysterious savior and who hired him. Yiming, however, remains completely hostile for absolutely no reason. He is also pissed that Chen Chong is isolated due to infection fears. The idiot even suggests that Xiao Yang wants to harvest their organs, so they should attack first. Four Eyes warns him that doing that would be betraying their savior. Yiming doesn't care. He wants power and plans to seize control of the entire fortress. He even suggests taking out the little girl and the old man while Xiao Yang is gone. The others stare at him like he's a total psycho, so Yiming quickly laughs it off as a joke, easing the tension. Four Eyes reminds him that if Xiao Yang wanted their organs, he wouldn't let them wander freely. But Yiming is secretly still plotting to make his move alone. He is determined to take the fort by any ruthless means necessary. Later, Xiao Yang meets with Shan Shan and Grandpa, who confirm Chen Chong is resting and the entire place is locked down. Pleased with the report, Xiao Yang tells them to get some rest, warning that tomorrow is going to bring even bigger headaches. He also warns them to watch Jiang Qi's friends, knowing a betrayal is coming. And as Xiao Yang opens that legendary cultivator box, you and I are left waiting to see what insane powers he unlocks next. Let's dive into this wild apocalypse survival story where our main character buys food, sugar, oil, and weapon boxes, scoring 50 corn seeds, piles of food, and 1,500 rounds of ammo. Talk about an epic haul. This gives him a massive head start. But the very next day, trouble knocks. That spoiled rich brat who wanted revenge returns with a whole gang to trash the fortress. He orders his goons to smash the gate, but they can't even scratch it. Losing his mind over how tough the walls are, the boss commands them to throw Molotov cocktails right over the top. Flames erupt instantly, sending Shan Shan and the crew scrambling to put them out. This makes her believe Xiao Yang's warnings even more. The world is ending, but our boy is not backing down. He grabs a rifle to deal with these uninvited guests, climbing up the watchtower to scan the perimeter. Shan Shan's grandpa is the first to recognize the arrogant punk from the highway. The thugs spot movement up on the tower, and the rich brat screams for Xiao Yang to surrender or get burned alive. Remaining completely chill, Xiao Yang gives them exactly 5 minutes to get lost. That just triggers them more, and they wave around 2 crates of Molotovs. Right then, the system drops a new quest for Xiao Yang. Grandpa panics and begs him to fire a warning shot. The objective is simple: eliminate every single attacker. Xiao Yang knows a warning shot won't work on monsters like this. These scumbags do not care about human lives. He lines up his sights, refusing to let these thugs terrorize his home. Xiao Yang pulls the trigger, bang. The bullet tears a thug's arm clean off, sending him screaming to the ground. Now, he actually wanted a headshot, but his aim is still a bit rusty. Still, blasting a guy's arm off is enough to shatter their confidence, and they scramble. But he knows they'll just return tomorrow if they escape. So, he opens fire and starts mowing them down. A few thugs push their screaming boss into the getaway car, yelling at the driver to step on the gas, but Xiao Yang sprays the vehicle with lead. Watching him handle that rifle like a pro, the old man wonders who this kid is. The raid ends in total disaster, the car is wrecked, and everyone lies dead. Xiao Yang tells the grandpa to get the crew to tidy up, but then hesitates. Since the end of the world is just kicking off, he decides to leave the corpses right outside. Meanwhile, Xiao Yang has no idea that Xu Shang is heading his way with Kui Jing and her best friend. Kui Jing is already losing her mind because her friend won't stop flirting with the fat boss. They pull up to the factory gates. Kui Jing tells her friend to step out, but the girl suddenly panics and refuses to move. Kui Jing snaps that she has to go. Otherwise, they won't recognize Xiao Yang's warehouse. Since she still resists, Kui Jing literally drags her out as Xu Shang orders his squad to stand by. The moment he gets the signal, they'll roll in. As the girls walk up, the scheming bestie asks why she had to tag along. Kui Jing coldly replies that they are too similar to trust each other. Pay attention to this moment, guys. As she claims she was just acting, they suddenly spot a pile of bloody corpses and realize a massive shootout just went down. They freeze in absolute terror and want to turn back, but then assume these dead guys also came for Xiao Yang's food. They wonder if Xiao Yang is dead, but honestly, they only care about looting his stash. They consider calling Xu Shang for backup, but Kui Jing decides to sneak in first. The girls creep up to the main gate, only to find it heavily reinforced and locked tight. This makes them wonder if Xiao Yang is actually alive. Suddenly, Shan Shan calls down from the watchtower demanding to know who they are. Naturally, they pretend to be his best friends. Shan Shan runs to report this to Xiao Yang, making Kui Jing furious that he is already hanging out with another girl. Her bestie tells her to focus because they are dealing with armed survivors. Kui Jing isn't worried because Xu Shang has heavy firepower. The only real obstacle is the gate. Just then, Xiao Yang shows up himself, wondering what on earth Kui Jing and Wen Shuya are doing here. You and I both know what's coming, right? Xiao Yang uses his Eye of Insight skill, revealing their sweet and worried act is just a cover for their toxic, treacherous minds. Xiao Yang laughs right in their faces, exposing that he already knows Xu Shang is waiting in the bushes. Both women freeze in shock, having no clue how he figured it out. He fires a warning shot. Kui Jing and Wen Shuya gasp, terrified he is actually shooting at them. Wen Shuya tries to stay calm and tells her partner not to panic, but Xiao Yang has zero plans to give them a quick death. That would be way too easy. Suddenly, one of the dead bodies groans and stands up, followed by the others. The mysterious virus from the news is officially bringing the dead back to life. For Xiao Yang, this is absolutely perfect. He wants these treacherous snakes to get torn apart by the undead. Screaming in terror, Kui Jing and Wen Shuya bolt as the monsters give chase. They sprint back to Xu Shang, who is completely clueless until he spots a horde of zombies charging behind them. The girls break down, begging the fat boss to save them, but he never expected this. He instantly panics, ordering his men to retreat and leaving the girls to die. But Kui Jing refuses to go down without a fight. This toxic girl hurls her heavy purse straight at her best friend, causing Wen Shuya to trip. With nowhere to run, Wen Shuya is instantly swarmed by the zombies and eaten alive. While being devoured, Wen Shuya screams a curse, promising Kui Jing will meet an even worse end. Unbothered, Kui Jing keeps running. Watching this, Xiao Yang happily gains system points while Shan Shan looks on in horror. He also receives a system quest to clear out the remaining undead. Shan Shan is in total shock, unable to believe a virus can actually raise the dead. And just like that, the apocalypse has officially started. Xiao Yang warns her that worse mutations are coming and dead bodies will always rise. Realizing they need a plan, he calls a meeting. Sitting down with his team, Xiao Yang orders everyone to lock down the facility entirely. He explains their bodies must adapt to the viral particles floating in the air. Successful adaptation means they won't randomly mutate into monsters. Even so, Zheng Qi is terrified for his injured buddy, Chen Chang, who's currently fighting for his life in the infirmary. Meanwhile, the entire city collapses into absolute chaos. We shift to Jiang Xingjie, who tells his family to barricade themselves inside while he heads out to grab supplies from the warehouse. But right at that moment, a violent pounding echoes at the door. Signaling his family to remain silent, he grips a golf club, ready to smash whatever monster tries to enter. Peeking out, he relaxes when he sees his employee, Yang Tao. Big mistake. Yang Tao brought a group of thugs who jump him immediately, beating him down while he screams in agony. After years of generous treatment, Yang Tao ruthlessly betrays his boss. The ungrateful kid snaps that he was always looked down upon, ignoring the fact that his boss literally paid his house down payment. But Yang Tao sneers that a single house down payment is pocket change to a rich man. He demands the keys, and when the boss refuses, Yang Tao targets his family. He grabs the wife by her hair, and her little boy screams at him to stop. Showing zero mercy, Yang Tao brutally slaps the kid, triggering the father's absolute rage. The punk sneers that nobody gets hurt if they just cooperate. They drag him to the warehouse and force him to unlock it, but Yang Tao loses his mind when he finds it empty. The boss explains that a guy named Xiao Yang bought everything up, even the expired food. Hearing that name, Yang Tao gets a brilliant idea: why not just rob him instead? But you and I know that is a massive mistake. The boss warns him that Xiao Yang is a literal monster who definitely prepared for the end of the world. You and I are diving straight into the madness. Yang Tao won't risk his own skin, so he forces his old boss to do it by threatening his family. If he fails to steal Xiao Yang's gear, his wife and child pay the price. It is a total nightmare. Meanwhile, back at the base, Zhang Qi's infected buddy has completely lost his mind, turning into a wild beast. The crew watches in utter horror as their friend degrades into a monster, but when Yiming coldly suggests putting him down, Xiao Yang instantly gets suspicious again. Zhang Qi is shocked by Yiming's coldness, but Yiming is deadly serious. He argues there is no point keeping a mindless, infected person around. If that thing breaks loose, everyone in the hideout is dead. It is a brutal truth, and Xiao Yang actually agrees. Since there is no cure, their friend is already gone. To test Yiming's resolve, Xiao Yang hands him a knife to see if he'll do it. Yiming freezes, realizing the trap. Xiao Yang is forcing him to execute his own friend. Shaking, he stares down at the blade while Xiao Yang mocks him, pointing out he was just begging for a weapon. If Yiming wants him dead, he should pull the trigger himself. But before things turn bloody, Zhang Qi knocks the knife away. He knows how agonizing this is and volunteers to end his friend's suffering. Xiao Yang warns him that taking a life is a heavy burden. It is not a decision to make lightly, but Jiangxi trusts him completely and steps forward anyway. Impressed by his resolve, Xiao Yang lets him take the lead. Jiang Shi raises the weapon, preparing for the fatal blow, but Xiao Yang suddenly grabs his arm and halts the strike. Yes, he changed his mind at the very last second. Chen Chong is a special case, and Xiao Yang has plans for him. The system previously notified him that this particular mutation is incredibly rare, meaning he is still useful. Left alone with the beast, Xiao Yang studies Chen Chong. The man is now a mindless zombie, but Xiao Yang walks up to the growling monster without a shred of fear, whispering that he still has a job to do. Pay attention here, because things are about to get incredibly chaotic. The boss crashes his car into a pole because he's panicked. Luckily, he is close enough to walk to the fortress, but his luck runs out when a lurking zombie ambushes him, sinking its teeth deep into his arm. He violently kicks it off, runs to the car, grabs a metal pipe, and smashes its head. He beats the creature's skull into a pulp, but that fight took way too long. Now, a whole group of walkers is closing in. Bleeding and desperate, he limps toward the safety of the base. Meanwhile, Xiao Yang gets his crew fully suited up. They are heavily armed and ready to clear out the local undead. Shan Shan hates the bulky armor, but in this world, it is non-negotiable. Xiao Yang explains that zombies have insane burst speed, making them lethal to rookies. They can ditch the heavy suits later. Once outside, they spot an isolated walker to use as target practice. Xiao Yang orders the squad to prepare for contact. Smelling fresh meat, the zombie sprints straight for them. As it closes the distance, the boss reminds everyone to cover each other and stay back. With zero effort, he sidesteps the lunging monster, demonstrating how to counter after dodging. He notes that targeting the temple or the back of the neck is the fastest way to drop them. Surprisingly, Four Eyes steps up and swings at the monster's face, but his attack bounces off, jarring his own wrists. Xiao Yang yells out that hitting a solid skull is completely useless. It is a rookie mistake that gives the beast an opening to strike back. Four Eyes barely blocks the attack with his weapon, shaking like a leaf as he screams for someone to help him. Even so, Xiao Yang is impressed he held his ground. Suddenly, Jiang Shi rushes in and chops the neck. That clean strike disables the monster, allowing the rest of the team to swarm and finish it. Xiao Yang reminds them to always double tap to make sure the target is truly dead. Jiang Qi turns, eager to know how they performed, but Xiao Yang tells him the results speak for themselves. Suddenly, another walker ambushes him from a blind spot. Jiang Qi screams a warning, but before the teeth can sink into his shoulder, Xiao Yang turns and grabs its skull. Fearless, he turns this into a live demo. Rule number 1, always watch your blind spots. The team is left speechless by his godlike reflexes. Meanwhile, the limping boss arrives at the base, spotting a line of trucks parked outside. He briefly wonders if some rival crew already wiped Xiao Yang out, but then hears familiar voices nearby. Recognizing the main character's tone, he creeps closer to investigate. Let's pause right here. While the boss is busy watching Xiao Yang's team slaughter zombies like it is nothing, he completely misses Wen Shuya's infected body crawling from under his car to grab his ankle. She drags him to the dirt. Defenseless, the boss closes his eyes and waits for the fatal bite. But right before her jaws close on his face, her head completely explodes. Zhao Yang saved his skin at the very last second. Shaking, the boss shoves the corpse off. But before he can even explain why he's here, Xiao Yang spots the fresh bite mark on his arm. Xiao Yang immediately aims his weapon, telling him his time is up. The boss desperately begs for a few seconds to speak. Xiao Yang agrees to listen, but keeps his gun raised. The boss knows he is a dead man walking. He will turn any minute, but he cannot let his family suffer the same fate. He reveals that Yang Tao raided his home, holding them hostage to extort Xiao Yang's supplies. He admits he is no saint, but Yang Tao is a complete monster. His wife and child are innocent, and Yang Tao will execute them. With his final breath, he begs Xiao Yang to rescue them. Xiao Yang hesitates. Yes, Jiang Shengji was a selfish jerk, but he did deliver the resources. Plus, the fortress lacks women, and bringing in more survivors would help balance the group's demographics. The deal gets even sweeter when the system triggers a new quest to rescue them, offering 25 points. He can easily combine this with his current mission to clear out the base. So, Xiao Yang officially accepts the request. Hearing this, Jiang Shengji falls to his knees, weeping with gratitude. But the clock is ticking, and his time has officially run out. The boss is about to mutate and refuses to go out like a pathetic victim. Understanding his pride, Xiao Yang orders Shan Shan to grab a bicycle from the warehouse. Confused, she complies. Xiao Yang instructs the boss to ride far away and lock himself in a secure, isolated spot. He keeps the details vague, but insists it is the best path before turning. Grateful, the boss nods. We see Jiang Shengji pedaling away into the wasteland. As the virus slowly takes over, his last human thoughts are of his family. Behind him, Xiao Yang stares at the pile of dead walkers. He douses the corpses in gasoline, burning them to ash. The training session is complete. Xiao Yang is confident that his crew can handle lone zombies as long as they work as a team. However, their current stats are not high enough to survive a horde. That will take serious training. Xiao Yang orders them to follow him, leading the group to a hidden storage room. Our boy tasks the old man with guarding the weapons locker while he prepares a solo run into the city. Naturally, Shan Shan's grandfather is terrified. Going alone is suicide. Jiang Qi and Four Eyes volunteer, but Xiao Yang shuts them down. The urban zone is far too dangerous for rookies. Their job is to hold the fort. With the plan set, he hops into his armored SUV, heavily geared up and ready to roll. For the first time, his system store is completely sold out, and the auto-refresh takes too long. Desperate, he manually spends points to force a refresh, unlocking mystery boxes he has never seen before. These are black tech, life-saving, and armed threat crates. Since manual refreshing doubles in cost every time, he must budget carefully. Still, Xiao Yang decides these high-tier crates are worth the investment. He acts fast and purchases a single black tech box, leaving himself with 6 points. Cracking it open, he scores a high-grade physical enhancement potion that grants a massive 5-point boost. This is a massive power-up. Xiao Yang injects the serum, pushing his physical stats into superhuman territory. Trust me, you and I won't want to miss his raid on the boss's house next. Let's dive right into this nightmare, where a boss's terrified family prays for rescue. Suddenly, the vile young Tao and his thugs break in, leaving the helpless mother begging for mercy. One creep grabs her, sneering that they will have some fun while her husband is away. She desperately fights back, screaming for them to stop, but they tear at her clothes while her brave little son tries to push them off. Just then, the ponytail enforcer Lee walks in, demanding to know what the racket is. A thug invites him to join the sick game, but Lee instantly shuts him down. They have a job to finish first. But the thug whines about doing this plenty of times before. Lee snaps, furiously reminding him that this is Jiang Shengji's wife and child. If she ends her life, Jiang Shengji will have nothing left to lose and hunt them all down. Lee tells them they can play later, once the husband is dealt with. The thug grumbles but retreats as the gang leaves, though one scumbag tells her to wait her turn. Left alone, the family weeps as night falls and zombies swarm the streets. Cruising down the desolate roads, Xiao Yang reflects on his massive growth. With 13 points in stamina, he is twice as strong as any normal human, with reflexes that are totally off the charts. He tears through barricaded streets, drifting around tight corners and loving the thrill. But with the area crawling with undead, he decides it is time to ditch the ride. The downtown core is near, and driving further would attract a massive horde. Moving on foot, a sudden roar echoes, and 2 zombies sprint straight at him. But Xiao Yang does not flinch. He ducks, rams his shoulder into the first beast, and throws it hard into its partner. Summoning his blade, he charges back in with zero hesitation, and with one swift strike, both heads fly. To him, these monsters are just test dummies for his newfound power. He is shocked by how easily he destroys them, realizing he is way stronger than any regular survivor. His senses are incredibly sharp now. Using his boosted hearing, he pinpoints his target just 800 meters away, near a grocery store where zombies are violently slamming against the doors. Inside, terrified survivors block the entrance with heavy shelves, praying at holes while they look for an escape. A crying kid asks his father if they are going to die. The father tries to soothe him, claiming the monsters cannot get in, and even if they do, they will reunite with his mother. That dark reassurance only makes the kid sob harder. The cop gets annoyed by that gloomy speech, but the dad snaps back that if the cop were actually smart, he would be a manager by now. Suddenly, loud gunshots echo outside. A zombie at the entrance gets its skull shattered, leaving the father and son frozen in absolute shock. The officer orders them to clear the barricade and peek outside, warning them to stay dead silent. Peeking out, they find the street littered with dead zombies and slowly step into the open. Suddenly, the kid screams about a mutant. His confused father asks what he means, and the kid explains it is a super zombie from games and comics. Annoyed, Old Song scolds his son for bringing up games in a literal apocalypse. He blames the games for his son's terrible school grades, but the officer cuts in to stop the bickering. He urges them to stay alert as they make their way toward the base. Reaching a fork in the road, they freeze. Old Song looks across the empty street and spots a mysterious young man standing alone. It is Xiao Yang, casually upgrading his stats through his system screen. The kid immediately shrieks that it is a mutant monster, but the cop realizes it is just another living survivor. Hearing them, Xiao Yang chuckles and tells the kid to stop dreaming. Relieved, the officer approaches and warns him that wandering around the city all by himself is a death sentence. Suggesting they team up, he invites Xiao Yang along. But Xiao Yang calmly asks who they are and why there are so few of them out here. Keeping an eye out, the officer explains they are scavenging for food and that a large group is holed up nearby. This reminds Xiao Yang that Junyu Mansion is close. Old Song nods, pointing right across the street. Pay attention here, he urges Xiao Yang to tag along for safety, boasting that Officer Lee has a gun and knows how to fight. Having no clue about his true strength, they lead the way as Xiao Yang silently tags along. As they march, Old Song asks if he is looking for someone special there. Xiao Yang nods, and Old Song asks if it is family or a girlfriend, warning him to prepare for the worst since they are living in a brutal apocalypse. Officer Lee grimly agrees, mentioning that human beasts are far worse than any monsters. Intrigued, Xiao Yang stops and asks him to explain what he means. Lee explains that a ruthless gang is hiding in the eastern mountains, preying on innocent people. Having already lost friends to them, he warns Xiao Yang to never trust anyone in this new, lawless world. Suddenly, the kid screams a warning. Officer Lee spins to find a zombie lunging at him, barely putting it down with a couple of quick shots. Panting heavily from the close call, the shaken officer realizes his gunshots have just alerted a nearby horde. Panicking, he spots an abandoned bus and points toward it. As they scramble, Xiao Yang smiles at their quick thinking. Running blindly is suicide, and a heavy bus makes a solid shield. But the trap is also blindingly obvious. If they get surrounded, there is no escape. Giving the plan a solid 70%, Xiao Yang leaps inside the vehicle just before Officer Lee slams the heavy door shut. You might think they are safe, but as Lee orders them to check the seats, the kid screams. The horde is already swarming, and they were just not fast enough. The monsters slam against the glass, trying to force their way inside. With the horde growing by the second, the officer desperately struggles to hold the door shut. Suddenly, Xiao Yang steps up, slamming the door shut with such insane force that the monsters are thrown backward. Officer Lee can only stare at him in shock. Xiao Yang promises to keep the entrance locked, telling them to break the windows and fight from above. Trusting his incredible strength, they quickly smash the glass to attack. Old Song bashes the heads of the zombies trying to climb in, while the others hold his legs so he does not fall out of the open window. Low on bullets, Officer Lee holds his fire to save ammo for a real emergency. Seeing this, Xiao Yang casually pulls out a crossbow and hands it over. Stunned, the cop asks where he got it, and Xiao Yang just shrugs, saying he found it. Together, they fight back, clearing the horde with bolts and brute force. After clearing the threat, they safely step outside. The cocky kid brags that they are the chosen ones, but Xiao Yang quickly tells him to stay sharp and avoid making stupid mistakes. Back at their base, the group silently prays for Xiao Yang's safety. As night falls, the quiet Liu Yiming suddenly volunteers to take the first watch. The chubby, glasses-wearing survivor mocks his sudden enthusiasm, but Yiming instantly snaps back. Defensively, the fatty asks why he is getting so incredibly worked up over a simple joke. Uncle Shang diffuses the tension, telling the group to sleep while Yiming guards, ordering him to scream if anything goes wrong. Hours later, Yiming sits alone, realizing that everyone is finally fast asleep. And that is where we leave it as he sneaks toward the sleeping elder to steal the weapon key before Xiao Yang returns. Alright, you and I are jumping right into the chaos as Liu Yiming creeps into the dark room. He thinks he is slick, reaching for the old man's key, but the target opens his eyes just in time. The old man demands answers, but gets a brutal punch to the face before he can even finish. Snatching the key, the traitor bolts down the hallway, while his victim screams for him to stop. The racket wakes up the whole camp. Learning that the weapon's key was stolen, they immediately chase after the rat. But to slow them down, he starts tossing heavy junk right in their path. The entire group just freezes. It is almost ridiculous. They could easily leap over the pile, but they stand there like buggy game characters blocked by some invisible barrier. Spotting the medical bay, the traitor decides to take things to the absolute extreme. He sneaks inside to find the zombie version of Chen Chong strapped to a bed, but the beast suddenly slashes with a free hand. That catches him off guard. The monster's arm was supposed to be bound tightly, but honestly, it works out even better for him, saving him the trouble of unlocking the restraints himself. Meanwhile, the group finally clears the blockage, only to face a nightmare in the corridor. They are absolutely furious that the scumbag would risk everything just to unleash the infected beast. The elder curses himself for not seeing through the snake sooner, but Shan Chong reminds him that regret is useless now. Without weapons, their primary focus must be trapping the zombie back inside. Uncle Sheng takes charge, ordering them to use the strategy Jiang Xiaoyang demonstrated before. Keep your distance, watch for bites, and move in slowly to corner the beast. Jiangxi lunges forward, seizing the creature's neck while his allies pin its thrashing arms. The old man acts as guide, frantically pointing toward the doorway and shouting to drag it inside. On three, they shove the monster through the door and slam it shut, locking it tight. With the danger contained, someone notes that went smoother than expected, and the others nod in relief. But pay attention here, because they have wasted far too much time. That rat has likely reached the vault. Speak of the devil, the traitor steps out, mocking them while holding a loaded pistol. He grumbles about only finding one firearm, but sneers that one bullet is plenty to execute them all. Raising the barrel, the coward demands they march straight back into the room. Jiang Shi desperately tries to reason with him, recalling how Jiang Xiaoyang rescued them all from certain death. But the villain spits back, claiming their savior was just showing off and owes them nothing. The elder spits at his absolute betrayal. Meanwhile, behind the locked door, the infected Chen Chong stirs, preparing to join the fray with a sinister agenda of his own. But before blood is spilled, we shift to Rongsheng Garden. Officer Li is outlining the route to Jingyu Mansion, warning that the confusing layout makes it a perfect breeding ground for hidden monsters. He urges Jiang Xiaoyang to return safely once his target is secured, advising him to utilize the side gate instead of the main entrance. Jiang nods, expressing his gratitude for the crucial advice. Old Song steps forward to accompany him out of gratitude, but Officer Li holds him back. Jingyu Mansion is an unknown hazard. If they trigger a horde, they will all end up dead. Old Song demands to know why they are abandoning him to fight alone, but the officer insists he did his part. The rest depends on Jiang's own remarkable survival skills. Meanwhile, hordes of monsters swarm the surrounding streets. Indoors, the ruthless thugs holding a family hostage grow highly impatient. One brute snaps, declaring he is tired of waiting for the father to return. He decides to take his frustration out on the terrified wife, laughing that she is waiting for a corpse. After all, her husband went out alone and is likely zombie food by now. The second thug suggests tying her down afterwards so she cannot take her own life, urging they enjoy their prize immediately. Overhearing their sickening plot, the poor woman trembles in absolute dread. Their leader, Ponytail, gives the green light but warns them not to damage the merchandise. But just as they prepare to move, he catches sight of something highly bizarre through the window. Suddenly, the zombies outside drop dead. He is clueless, but you and I know what is coming. Ponytail investigates, hoping for rescue, but the very instant he crosses the threshold, his story ends. A cold blade flashes through the shadows, carving his throat wide open before his severed head rolls across the dirt. Inside, the remaining scum prepare to assault the helpless victim. With wicked grins, they begin loosening their belts. They tear the screaming child from his mother, striking her face when she cries out. The boy is thrown aside, yet he bravely fights back. The bastards kick the kid into the corridor and slam the door shut. Right then, Ponytail's bloody corpse collapses before him, but looking up at the door, the child sees a heroic figure standing there. It is Jiang Xiaoyang. He calmly asks if the kid's father is Jiang Shengjie. The boy stammers out a nod. Meanwhile, the beasts inside are ripping at the mother's clothes as she desperately resists. A thug strikes her again, ordering her to scream for them, but she bites her lip to keep her son from hearing her pain. The monster sneers, claiming the first turn for himself. Before he can touch her, the entrance explodes open. A thug thinks the kid kicked it, but before he can react, a blade slices his head clean off his shoulders. His partner, utterly oblivious, demands to know why he is standing frozen, telling him to throw the brat out. But as the headless corpse collapses, the entire room freezes in sheer terror. Before they can process the horror, Jiang Xiaoyan lunges, slamming another thug violently against the concrete. Still clutching his unbuckled belt, the terrified trash asks who he is. Jiang offers no words. He kicks him, ending him instantly. Back at the camp, Li Yuming aims his gun at the crowd, issuing a final warning to move or be shot down. The elder urges everyone to comply and step inside. Shan Shan refuses, but the old man insists he has a plan. Hearing this, Li Yuming sneers, stating there is no escape. He boasts about his true cruelty, deciding to execute the vocal old man first to set an example. Others plead for mercy, but mid-sentence, an ominous sound echoes through the hall. The infirmary's metal lock begins to rattle and spin before the door flies open. To their complete horror, Chen Chong has somehow unlocked the door and escaped. It seems impossible for a mindless zombie to turn a key, but his focus is clear. The beast glares directly at Li Yuming with murderous bloodlust, forcing the terrified villain to aim his weapon. He pulls the trigger, but the weapon jams instantly. Realizing his doom, the tyrant freezes as the undead monster leaps, tearing him to bloody shreds and ending his reign of terror. The beast does not stop. He grabs the corpse, dragging it back into the room while everyone watches in speechless shock. Unbelievably, the zombie retrieves the key, tosses it, and locks himself back inside, leaving them stunned. Meanwhile, Jiang Xiaoyun eliminates the remaining scum and frees the mother. Pulling her child close, the mother frantically demands to know Jiang's intentions. Offering no explanation, Jiang simply beckons the kid forward. Trusting his savior, the young boy assures his mother everything will be fine. As the kid approaches, Jiang hands him a razor-sharp dagger, telling him to execute the monsters who abuse them. Realizing their fate, the remaining cowards begin weeping. The mother screams in protest, shielding her little boy, but Jiang declares he is no longer just a child. He must become her protector today by summoning the courage to slaughter the beasts who hurt her. Remembering their sickening grins, his fear instantly morphs into pure, unadulterated fury. He charges forward with the blade, slaughtering the scum and delivering absolute justice for his traumatized mother. The mother watches in horror as her boy is consumed by wrath, knowing his father is never coming home. And as Jiang confirms his death, that is where we leave this tragic reality. All right, you and I are jumping right into a brutal moment. The trembling kid finally drops his bloody knife, rushing to hug his mother tight. Desperate to protect her son, the mother begs Jiang to take him, promising she will do absolutely anything. But the kid refuses, wanting to stay and protect her himself. Jiang stops them both and tells them they are coming along. He promised Jiang Shengjie he would keep them safe. Hearing this name, the mother and son finally agree to follow him. Stepping past the scattered corpses, young Shuai shivers, wondering what kind of monster could have slaughtered these men. Jiang calmly admits he was the one who did it. The boy is Shuai, and his mother is Xiaoli. Suddenly, Jiang raises a hand to halt them. He hears something suspicious nearby. He turns to Xiaoli, asking where Building 8 in Banyan Garden is located. Pointing straight ahead, she wonders why he asks. Meanwhile, over at Building 8, a ruthless gang of looters is outside demanding all their supplies. Inside, terrified survivors hide in their apartments, fiercely arguing over whether they should just surrender. Officer Lee shuts that down immediately. He warns that those looters are mindless beasts who will execute everyone except the women. Outside, the gang shouts that they have 10 minutes to cooperate. One woman desperately wants to go out and beg, but another snaps that she refuses to become some thug's toy. That is when Gorilla steps in, telling everyone not to worry. They are not giving up, and as long as they block the hallway, the looters can't break through. Outside, the smug gang leader brags about their guns, but his minion warns that forcing their way in is suicide with an armed officer inside. The boss sneers, saying there is no rush. Instead, he orders his men to cut the water to the ground floor and wait. Watching from the shadows, Jiang Xiaoyang observes their move. Shui quietly asks if those are bad guys, and Jiang nods. Hilariously, the kid asking this literally just killed 3 grown men, yet he still sounds so innocent. Jiang reminds him these bastards are just like the ones who hurt his mother, so they must be stopped. Meanwhile, Officer Lee orders everyone to watch the stairs and stay hidden while he checks the entrance. Peeking out the window, he spots 7 men, 3 of them heavily armed. Suddenly, a deafening gunshot echoes through the air, catching the officer completely off guard. Everyone inside is panicking, but you and I know exactly what is about to go down. Jiang opens fire, instantly dropping 1 thug, leaving the rest completely clueless. Officer Lee watches in shock as Jiang boldly advances, gun raised. He fires, putting a clean bullet right through another thug's head. When the rest finally spot him standing right there, they shoot back wildly, but Jiang keeps walking like a total badass. The bullets do not even graze him. Seeing their terrible aim only makes him smirk. He targets the leader hiding behind a concrete barrier, but the shots merely chip the stone. Furious, the boss screams at his men to keep shooting while Jiang is distracted. One idiot stands up to take the shot, but Jiang instantly pivots and blows his head off. Behind the block, the boss sneers, guessing Jiang is finally out of ammo. He steps out, aiming his gun, but Jiang just stares back with cold, lifeless eyes. The instant the thug fires, Jiang casually tilts his head to dodge. He grabs the man's wrist, twists his arm, and forces the barrel right under his chin before pulling the trigger, ending him instantly. Just like that, the entire squad is wiped out. Jiang loots the leader's body for valuables, then heads inside the building to clean up the remaining stragglers. The last thugs charge him in sheer desperation, but Jiang does not even blink. Standing his ground, 3 quick shots drop them all. Shui watches in total awe, completely captivated by Jiang's power. Suddenly, a system mission pops up, tasking Jiang with recruiting the wrong Xiang survivors for a sweet reward. When Jiang asks who they are, Officer Lee explains they came from the Bikishan villas south of the city. The officer calls over 2 young guys in yellow jackets, Liu Chao and Chen Ji, telling them to explain the Bikishan situation to Brother Yang, since they escaped from the south. They explain that a heavily armed gang controls the area, hoarding massive supplies and gathering almost every survivor in the south. Let's pause and see how Jiang reacts to this news. He wonders if Bikishan is where Li Sushin and Kuai Jing built their legendary base in his past life. Have they already taken over? He asks if this is the only settlement left down south. One man explains that smaller shelters stood no chance against their firepower. Every time the gang conquered a new territory, they slaughtered half the population, keeping only the young, attractive women and anyone willing to join their ranks. By now, Jiang Xiaoyang knows exactly who is behind it. Hearing his confidence, Officer Lee asks what he means. Jiang points out that the 3 dead thugs all carried handguns. He advises them to loot the guns and search for spare ammo, warning that more enemies are coming. He then hands Officer Lee his own rifle, along with 5 loaded magazines. Jiang warns that the Baekwon gang won't let this slide, but with these weapons, holding off 10 men should be easy. He tells them to hang tight for a few days while he reorganizes, promising to return and crush them. One survivor is completely stunned, asking if Jiang is seriously planning to wage war against Baekwon. He frantically warns that they have dozens of heavily armed men, maybe even more. Officer Lee tries to dissuade him, suggesting they flee, but Jiang shrugs it off. He already has a massive personal score to settle with the Baekwon gang. He promises to return soon with a larger truck to transport everyone east, near Old Leaf City, where he is building an epic stronghold and needs able bodies. Saying a quick goodbye, Jiang tells them to stay safe and leaves with Xiaoli and Shui. We shift to a dark compound littered with dead bodies. A lone guard stands watch outside. This is Baekwon, where the gang bosses are currently holding an emergency meeting. Wang Ge, the orange-haired big boss, demands to know why the supplies at the Jinyu Entertainment Center are not secured yet. Xiaoli, a stout lieutenant, stammers that his squad should have returned, totally clueless that they are all dead. Kai Ge warns him that elite, powerful families reside near Jinyu Mansion, making those supplies extremely difficult to secure. Xiaoli insists his men were ordered to capture any survivors. Furious, the boss roars, slamming Xiaoli for constantly failing to get a single job done right. Sweating under the pressure, Xiaoli promises to handle it, while Kai Ge enjoys watching him squirm. Stepping outside, a lackey notices his foul mood and asks what went wrong. Xiaoli snaps, asking if his 7-man scout team is back yet. The lackey reveals that he checked an hour ago and found them all slaughtered. Xiaoli is utterly shocked, unable to believe mere civilians killed his armed men. Panicking, he orders Tai Ozi to gather everyone who can handle a weapon. He cannot fail again. Meanwhile, Jiang Xiaoyang finally makes it back to his massive stronghold. The second Shan Shan hears the engine roaring. She knows Brother Yang has returned. As Jiang drives inside, a system notification pops up confirming his mission is officially complete. Shan Shan rushes to welcome him, but Jiang instantly notices Liu Yiming is missing, confirming his suspicion that the man was a traitorous snake. The group is stunned to learn Jiang knew all along. Pointing to Xiaoli and Shuai, he requests they be shown to their rooms, instructing the core team to meet him in the infirmary. Once isolated, Jiang reveals he knew the traitor had bad intentions from day one. He admits he was not completely sure of the identity, but knew one of Jiang Qi's friends was trash. Jiang then tosses a massive rifle to Jiang Qi, who catches it and realizes the ammo is entirely rubber. The old man immediately asks about Chen Chang in the medical bay. Approaching, Jiang reveals that Chen Chang is no ordinary zombie, but a rare, powerful mutant. He had previously ordered the zombie to blink 3 times, and Chen Chang actually obeyed. Jiang explains that some victims of the apocalypse have a tiny chance to mutate into sentient beings. They are highly intelligent, hold massive potential, and keep their human memories. Trust me, you and I are about to see how this unfolds. You and I are jumping right back into the madness as Jiang opens the door, finding Chen Chang standing over the troublemaker. Seeing his boss, the zombie waves, prompting Jiang to tell him to finish the bastard off. As the mutant drags the snake-like thug away, Bleachhead asks if he still remembers his old self. Chen Chang pauses, stopping in his tracks to stare back. Nobody knows what is going through his undead brain. Suddenly, he lunges at Bleachhead, who barely dodges the strike. Turns out Chen Chang was just messing with his old buddy, proving that even as a zombie, he still loves a good prank. Later, Jiang Xiaoyang checks his system screen. He just unlocked a hidden achievement called Mutual Companion, boosting his point total. Intrigued by this sudden bonus, our main character decides to browse the shop for new gear. He spots a level 2 item called the High-Tech Supply Box, something completely new. But it costs 50 points, making him hesitate. Deciding to play it safe, he opens the 2 level 1 boxes he has left. And the rewards are absolutely crazy. The Lifesaver box drops an interdimensional infection blocker, which can halt any otherworldly virus before it spreads, though it cannot reverse a complete mutation. Next, the Armed Deterrent box drops a massive Barrett M82 sniper rifle. Jiang is completely blown away by his luck. Pulling a Barrett from a level 1 box is insane, and that blocker is literally a lifesaver. While these rewards make him crave that level 2 box, he stays focused on tomorrow's mission, rescuing the survivors stranded at Rongshan Garden. Outside, Chen Chang tosses the traitor far beyond the base gates. Parasites are not welcome here. By sunrise, the entire community gathers at the training field. Armed to the teeth, young and old listen as Jiang announces a new rule: daily target practice is mandatory for everyone. They start blasting away at glass bottles, flashes of light sparking with every hit. Pay attention here, because Jiang is already planning 3 steps ahead. He tells Uncle Shang to clear out more living spaces, anticipating a huge influx of new survivors from today's rescue mission. Uncle Shang nods in agreement, bringing Chen Chang along for extra muscle. On their way, they stumble across an abandoned school bus, absolutely packed to the brim with snarling zombies. Jiang clears the undead with ease, while Chen Chang helps toss the corpses out. Once the bus is empty, Jiang hands him the keys and tells him he can take his mask off for now. He will need to cover up again at Rongshan Garden to avoid panicking the survivors, earning a soft growl of understanding from the mutant. Meanwhile, at Baikei-shan, Xiaoli prepares his thugs for a raid. This time, the boss is leading the charge himself. Determined to wipe Rongshan Garden off the map, armed with heavy weapons, he feels absolutely invincible. Their armored truck roars to life, speeding toward the target. Meanwhile, Jiang Xiaoyang jumps behind the wheel of their newly acquired bus, flooring the gas pedal. Sighting a horde of zombies blocking his path, he maintains speed and plows straight through them, utilizing his enhanced reflexes to drift and weave around the highway wreckage. Over at Rongshan Garden, things look peaceful on the surface. Inside, Officer Li and the survivors ration their meager food, but their quiet meal is suddenly interrupted by a roaring engine outside. A kid eagerly hopes that Jiang has returned to rescue them, but Officer Li remains on guard. Arming himself with an AK-47, he commands silence and cautiously peers through the window. But it is not a rescue. It is a gang of ruthless thugs out for blood, locking and loading their weapons. Spotting Building 8, their leader commands them to advance. Just when hope seemed within reach, the Baikei-shan bastards arrived. Old Song raises his stolen pistol, ready to fight. Armed with a few firearms, the survivors prepare to stand their ground. Officer Lee warns them not to get overconfident. The enemy has superior numbers and firepower, so they must stick strictly to their defensive plan. Taking to the rooftop, he prepares a deadly ambush. Now, you and I need to watch this closely. The invaders raise their weapons and target the windows of Building 8. Old Song takes a quick glance outside and screams for everyone to take cover. Immediately, a devastating hail of bullets shatters the silence, tearing right into the building. Glass shatters everywhere, forcing Old Song to retreat deeper inside. After the initial volley, the enemy leader grabs a megaphone, telling his men to gun down anyone who dares to peek out. He begins taunting the survivors through the microphone. But before he can even finish his sentence, the thug standing right next to him takes a clean bullet to the head. The gang freezes in absolute shock. They never expected a counterattack. A second thug is dropped instantly, with Officer Lee raining down fire from the rooftop. With a perfect vantage point, Lee dominates the field. The Bikation leader curses their terrible intel, shocked that these survivors possess an automatic rifle. He was told they only had a couple of weak handguns. Now, his terrified men look to him for direction, absolutely petrified of getting picked off one by one. His order is simple: retreat. But these panic-stricken idiots make the worst possible move, scattering in the open instead of backing away together. Exposing themselves to a trained sniper is a death sentence, and Officer Lee makes every bullet count. Frustrated, their leader starts a countdown for a coordinated escape. On 3, they sprint for their lives, but the cop on the roof keeps dropping them one by one. Meanwhile, their cowardly boss stays safely tucked behind cover, letting his own men draw all the fire. His entire plan was to use his crew as live bait until the sniper ran out of ammo, an absolute scumbag move. As expected, the rifle clicks empty, forcing Lee to reload. That brief window is all Zeusing needs to reach his vehicle, leaving only 4 survivors. The last thug is too slow, and Zeusing drives off without him. A single bullet puts the left-behind thug down, while the 2 in the truck bed duck low, shaking in pure terror. Meanwhile, Jiang's Xiaoyang continues barreling down the highway in his hijacked bus, staying totally focused on reaching the survivors before it is too late. Seeing a speeding truck heading the opposite way catches him off guard. He could easily chase them down, but he decides to stick to the mission. Arriving at Building 8, Jiang and Chen Chong step off the bus, immediately greeted by the bloody aftermath of the rooftop shootout. Jiang is glad the rifle he gifted them did its job, realizing the truck he bypassed carried the escaping raiders. Meanwhile, Chen Chong stares hungrily at the fresh corpses, growling as his stomach rumbles. Jiang chuckles, giving him permission to eat. Better for his mutant ally to gain strength than letting wandering zombies get a free meal. With a green light, Chen Chong lights up with twisted joy. Jiang lets him feast, ordering him to meet back at the entrance once he is finished. Instantly, the mutant tears into a thug's neck. As he devours the flesh, a surge of dark energy spreads through his veins, fueling his monstrous strength. Walking through the carnage, Jiang is impressed by the clean shots, admiring the cop's ruthless precision. Spotting movement, a child peeks out the window and beams with joy at Jiang's arrival. Realizing their savior is finally here, the remaining survivors emerge to wave him over. Guided by Officer Lee, they grab their gear and descend. Lee thanks him for the rifle, revealing his past as a military sniper. But trust me, you and I are about to see this reunion violently cut short by a terrifying roar. Stick with me, we are diving right back into the chaos as the survivors freeze, seeing a limping figure. It is Chen Chong, and Big Bro Lee immediately aims his rifle. Xiaoyang calmly pushes the gun down, telling everyone to relax because this zombie is friendly. Of course, the terrified survivors find that incredibly hard to believe, and honestly, who can blame them? Xiaoyang points Chen Chong toward the dead thugs, ordering him to keep feasting. A terrified Big Bro Lee asks if he can actually talk to the dead. Xiaoyang simply replies that Chen Chong is not your average zombie. It is a long story, so he orders everyone onto the bus, promising to explain everything on the road. As they climb aboard, Xiaoyang reminds his undead partner to wrap up his meal quickly. Chen Chong flashes an okay sign without pausing his gruesome feast. After devouring every single thug, he casually picks up his metal mask and slips it back on, leaving the onlookers completely speechless. The kid cannot believe a zombie is smart enough to mask itself. Xiaoyang quickly warns him never to call it a muzzle around Chen Chong, unless he wants to get smacked into next week. Secretly, the kid starts thinking this mutant zombie is actually pretty badass. His solo buffet finished, Chen Chong boards the bus like a totally normal passenger. Having eaten so many bodies, his weight has spiked. The bus literally tilts when he steps inside. Incredibly, Chen Chong even slurs out a word while handing the mask key back to Xiaoyang. Even Xiaoyang is stunned to hear him speak so soon, even if it is just a single word. After devouring 6 corpses, he is definitely evolving to the next level. But right now, the priority is getting everyone back to reinforce the base. Xiaoyang hops into the driver's seat, tells his passengers to hang on, and hits the gas. Meanwhile, pay attention here over at the enemy headquarters. Li Zuxiang is getting absolutely chewed out for his failed raid. He tries blaming bad intel, claiming nobody warned him about rifles. But Boss Lin is not buying it. To the boss, there is no way some small-town cops have military-grade weapons, making the excuse sound like a pathetic lie. Desperate, Zhu Xiang begs them to go check the battlefield themselves. Fed up with his excuses, the boss's right-hand man kicks him flat onto the floor. Zhu Xiang knows this is his cue to leave. The thugs have been tired of his uselessness for a long time. Losing so many men makes them want to just put a bullet in his head. But another leader, Boss Shu, speaks up, exposing the real reason behind all this anger. The guy has been eyeing Zhu Xiang's gorgeous girl, even suggesting they share her like a piece of loot. Boss Lin smiles at the thought, but tells him to wait for the perfect moment. What these monsters do not know is that Zhu Xiang never actually left. He is listening from just outside the door, clenching his teeth in pure rage. He needs an escape plan. Fast. Hours later, he returns to his luxury villa and completely loses his mind, smashing everything in sight. His girl tries to calm his rage, but he just snaps at her to start packing their bags. They need to run immediately. When she asks where to, he has no clue, only knowing this place is no longer safe. He urgently summons his assistant, Qingzi, who rushes right in. He orders Qingzi to round up their last few loyal men for a midnight escape. His girl can sense the absolute desperation, and she is hating every second of it. All right, let's pause and head back to the people who actually matter. Xiaoyang returns to his fortress, parking the bus. The new survivors step out, completely stunned by the scale of his base. With everyone safe, the rescue mission is officially a success. He only needed to save 5 people, but brought back 8, scoring 25 points plus a 5-point bonus, bringing his total to 66. Xiaoyang tells his undead partner that tomorrow night they are heading to the southern district. Hearing this, Li Zuxiang nervously asks what is waiting for them down south. Xiaoyang replies he has some serious unfinished business with the monsters at Bichui Mountain Villa. That night, he locks himself away to eyeball the level 2 supply crate, which finally costs 50 points he can actually afford. He taps the screen, eager to see what his very first level 2 crate will drop. After purchase, his remaining points plummet to just 16. Blinding lights swirl around him as Zhao Yang prays this expensive purchase is worth it. Luckily, his gamble pays off, rewarding him with a powerful physical enhancement serum. The massive syringe holds a drug that can boost his physical stats by 20 points. Without hesitating, he plunges it straight into his veins. It burns like hell, but his stat shoots to 33, making him 6 times stronger than any normal human. The serum does not just boost his muscles, it sharpens his senses to a razor edge. Hearing a tiny mosquito buzz, he instantly snatches it out of the air by its stinger. These godlike reflexes will be a massive advantage in his upcoming battles. Highly satisfied, he lets the bug go and heads out for patrol, with Brother Chong as sunset approaches. Scanning the yard, he spots Li Hongli leading a group in marksmanship practice. With things running smoothly, Xiaoyang prepares to head toward the south side. Before taking off, he asks the veteran cop to lead their firearms training, knowing he is their best sniper. Old Li gladly accepts the role, happy to help. With that settled, Xiaoyang and Brother Chong head out. The bus speeds forward. Meanwhile, absolute chaos is brewing in the enemy camp. Li Shishang has ordered his men to pack up and run, but his master escape plan is about to fail miserably. The ruthless leaders of Beachway Mountain Villa roll up to his mansion, blocking every exit. Sitting inside the front car are the top bosses, accompanied by a very familiar woman. With a mocking smile and gun drawn, Boss Shu asks Boss Li why he is sneaking out in the dead of night. Boss Li lies instantly, claiming they are launching a surprise attack under cover of darkness. Normally, that fast-talking routine might buy him some time, but not tonight. You see, one of his loyal men has already been captured and sang like a bird. Boss Li's men instantly recognize Qingzi's lifeless body, yet Boss Li still tries to play dumb, awkwardly scratching his head in hopes that his terrible acting will save him. Sensing the bullshit, Boss Shu orders his men to open fire. Boss Li can only stand there, shaking violently as his followers get mowed down, still desperately pretending he has no clue. But Boss Shu knows exactly how to break him. He tells Li Shushang to look closely at the passenger seat. Just one glance is enough to reveal the crushing truth. Qingjing has sold him out, too, playing the exact same card she always does for a wealthier backer. Boss Kai is completely done with the lies, especially since she already leaked their escape route. Honestly, he should have seen it coming. She ruined Jiang Xiaoyang before jumping to him, so of course she would betray him too. Finally, Boss Kai looks over to Boss Jiang for the green light. With a cold, silent nod, Boss Jiang orders the execution of Li Shusheng. They choose an incredibly brutal, slow death, tightening a heavy rope around his neck until he finally stops struggling completely. It is a slow, agonizing end, and once he stops breathing, they string his body up at his own front gate. Later that same night, a familiar blue bus pulls up nearby. Jiang Xiaoyang and Brother Chong slip inside on foot, only to make a shocking discovery at the gate. They came here to kill the bastard, but someone else beat them to the punch. Xiaoyang knows the trash deserved it, though he hates missing out on the kill. He flicks a small pebble with insane force, cutting the rope. Seeing his enemy's end only fuels his desire for real payback. Meanwhile, disgusting noises echo from the top floor of Beachway Mountain Villa. Xingjing foolishly believed she could just switch sides again and enjoy safety with the winning team. She was dead wrong. Her betrayal threw her straight to real monsters who pass her back and forth like property. And that is where we leave it. You and I are definitely ready for payback. All right, you and I are about to watch some seriously bad people get what they deserve. Boss Kai looked out his penthouse window, freezing at the sight of his dead guards, right before a loud knock echoed at the door. But that knock was just a distraction. The real threat broke through the high window, looking like death itself. Knife in hand, Xiao Yang pressed the cold blade directly against Boss Kai's neck, ready to end it in a flash. Without letting him utter a single word, he sliced his throat and left Kai drowning in his own blood. That is one target down, and one terrified Boss Jiang left to go. 1 second, Jiang was busy with Kui Jing, and the next his partner was dead on the floor. Kui Jing recognized Jiang Xiao Yang instantly. Without wasting a beat, Xiao Yang threw his blade straight at the naked bastard. Boss Jiang fell dead, his neck cut wide open. The second he hit the floor, Kui Jing let out a terrified scream, knowing deep down that Xiao Yang had not come to rescue her. Looking at him only made her panic rise. Xiao Yang gave her a cold, mocking look and walked to the door. Unlocking it slowly, he wondered how Li Shusheng would react to seeing her like this. The moment the door swung open, the mutated fat man lunged inside. Li Shusheng was completely gone, replaced by a brainless, flesh-eating monster that instantly sank his teeth deep into Kui Jing's neck, tearing her apart. She screamed for help, but her cries went unanswered. With his revenge finally complete, Jiang Xiaoyang closed the door on the two traitors who had ended his previous life. Outside, he chatted with Brother Chong about cleaning up the mess. The dead guards would make a great snack for his mutant buddy, but Brother Chong was already stuffed and could only manage one corpse tonight. Still, one was better than nothing. While Brother Chong ate, Xiao Yang's sharp hearing caught a strange noise nearby. In a building close to Beachway Mountain Villa, a group of terrified survivors was being held hostage. Guarding them were a brutal chef and a creepy thug. The thug grabbed a little girl, pointing her out as their next meal because her meat was so tender. All right, you and I are diving right back into this nightmare as a ruthless chef brutally knocks a mother down. She desperately begs everyone to save her son. But the other survivors, they just stand there, completely frozen. Honestly, they are just glad it is not them. But suddenly, bang! Gunshots tear through the door, leaving 3 massive holes. The guards instantly pull out their weapons, ready for a fight. In this place, only the top bosses own firepower that insane. Still, those shots luckily bought the kids some time. The ruined door slowly creaks open, and every single guard aims right at it. But seconds pass, and nothing comes out. Losing his patience, the chef sends one guard to investigate. The guy nervously steps out, and boom! Brother Chong instantly grabs him by the throat from the shadows. Without even showing his face, he drags the armed guard away. Spotting that pale, creepy arm, the others panic, thinking zombies are breaching. They unload their guns, completely wasting their ammo on thin air. Brother Chong just toys with them, circling the room and easily dodging their terrible aim. The moment they stop shooting, boom! Brother Chong shatters a boarded-up window like it is nothing. Pay attention to this part because Brother Chong locks onto the chef. He leaps, and snap! He breaks his neck midair. He lands, instantly using his momentum to pounce on his next target. In just seconds, he slaughters these untrained thugs one by one. The survivors can only stare in absolute shock and terror. This zombie massacred every single thug but left the captives completely untouched. Once the dust settles, Xiao Yang walks in, praising Brother Chong for clearing them out so cleanly while wearing that mask. Brother Chong just rasps back that the mask makes him look cool. Honestly, he is not wrong. But hearing a zombie talk just makes the survivors even more terrified. Kids cling tight to their mothers, keeping their distance from this bizarre mutant. Xiao Yang tries to break the tension, promising Brother Chong is friendly. But one little girl is not buying it. Let's pause here, because this is where the plot thickens. She claims she saw other super monsters kill people without hesitation. Her mother adds they spotted another mutated beast over in eastern Decor City. Xiao Yang expected these evolved mutants to show up much later, maybe in a month or two. Even worse, Decor City is dangerously close to their base in Old Tea Leaf Town. He warns Brother Chong that another rare mutant might be lurking nearby. You see, some mutants retain their human memories, making them incredibly dangerous. But if their mutation is unstable, they turn into absolute, ultra-violent beasts. That dark reality makes Brother Chong pretty uneasy about his own future. Sensing his fear, Xiao Yang reassures him. Brother Chong kept his sanity, and with Xiao Yang backing him, he will be just fine. He then asks if any other survivors are trapped in the villa. They mention people locked up in the basement sales office, so Ardua heads down there next. The second Xiao Yang swings that steel door open, the sickening stench of blood hits him. Everyone recoils at the horrifying slaughterhouse inside. This is definitely where those vile villa bastards butchered humans like livestock. This explains why there are 0 other survivor groups nearby. Some captives reveal they constantly saw the goons hauling massive loads of mysterious meat right out of the city. Looking at the remains, Xiao Yang can easily guess the massive death toll. Moving that much meat means they are mixed up in something far more twisted. With no one left alive here, they head to the sales office about 1 kilometer away near the south gate. That is where newcomers are locked up before the useless ones get sent away. Right then, Xiao Yang triggers a new questline called Subpar Utopia, forcing him to level up his community. Meanwhile, the thugs at the sales office have no idea their entire operation just crumbled. They thought the distant gunfire was just target practice. But as Brother Chong creeps through the dark to end them, trust me, you and I are about to see a glorious bloodbath. All right, you and I are stepping right into a nightmare. Inside the sales office, a few trapped women heard the noise outside. The messy room showed the horrors they endured. While some had completely given up, others clung to a tiny shred of hope. But when the door swung open, it wasn't another filthy scumbag from the villa. Instead, a young man with a cold, determined stare walked in. Xiao Yang waved the women out, adding them to the group he saved that night. Stepping out of the office, they walked right past the bloody corpses of their tormentors. Xiao Yang promised them a secure sanctuary, a genuine home, and an end to this living hell. His single rule was incredibly simple. Everyone had to pitch in and work to help the community grow. Compared to the villa, this was the deal of a lifetime. Deal made. Xiao Yang led the survivors to his ride. He had brought a massive bus to fit everyone, and they piled in. Once they pulled up to his base, Qin Shan and Jiang Qi were already waiting for him. Now pay attention, this is where we see his smart leadership. Xiao Yang stopped outside, making it clear that nobody enters his sanctuary without a thorough security screening first. Nobody complained. The survivors gladly settled into temporary prefab shelters behind secure iron gates. It wasn't as secure as the fortress, but compared to the chaotic city, it felt like paradise. This town had plenty of space, and things were bound to get even better. The grateful survivors wept and thanked their savior as the sun finally rose. But miles away, a heavy convoy of vehicles pulled up to Beech Tree Mountain Villa, led by a highly impatient woman. Her local boss, Jiang Xingwen, and his guards weren't answering any calls. Sensing something was seriously wrong, she stepped out of her car to investigate the silent buildings herself. And that's where we leave them. Rotting corpses are rising as mindless zombies everywhere, and yes, you and I can see that even includes the vile Li Zuxiong. All right, you and I are starting this wild ride with Boss Rui utterly destroying those lunging zombies. No weapons, just bare hands and a knife, hacking them apart limb by limb. The villa was overrun, her lieutenants were dead, and their twisted food supply was completely ruined. They had to clean up, but first, she wanted the head of whoever destroyed Beech Tree Mountain Villa. Blood would definitely spill. Her scouts swept the entire place and confirmed 0 survivors. The only silver lining? There was still enough meat left to secure today's crucial shipment. They just needed to bring the truck in. As her men loaded heavy bags of meat, Boss Rui stood silently, plotting her next move in this cruel world. Glancing down, she spotted fresh tire tracks leading away. A perfect trail to the culprit. Meanwhile, back at the fortress, Xiao Yang was planning his next community expansion. Despite saving tons of survivors, his score remained stuck at 2. It made no sense if numbers mattered. At least he had plenty of land to build on. That arrogant jerk who sold him the title had actually done him a favor, but expansion was not his only issue. The rare mutant in town needed dealing with. So, alongside Shan Shan and Jiang Qi, he visited the prefabs. The survivors treated him like a god, even kneeling in tears once they saw their comfortable new homes. Xiao Yang had one goal: to investigate the elite monster the rescued family mentioned. They ran into the beast at Horenfa Market inside Decor City while looting supplies. Many died instantly. She grabbed her daughter and fled in the chaos, running to Betui Mountain Villa, only to end up caged by humans far worse than the zombies. Armed with the exact location, Xiao Yang headed for his truck. The crew tried to stop him since they had enough food, but he was not doing this for loot. Decor City was less than 2 kilometers away, and leaving a threat that close was too risky. The mother begged him to stay, but Xiao Yang assured them he knew exactly what he was doing. All he needed was Brother Chong to face this monster. Meanwhile, an experienced band of drifters was hunting for supplies nearby. Spotting a huge supermarket, they got hyped for a massive haul, though they knew other scavengers had likely cleared it. Still, they marched in, fully confident in their skills. Pitch darkness swallowed them. Once their eyes adjusted, they realized the place was looted but still had plenty of good stuff left. Keeping tight, they made a little noise to bait any hiding threats. When a few slow walkers stumbled out, the squad calmly put them down without breaking a sweat. It was a clean, coordinated takedown. They sighed in relief, figuring previous survivors had already lured the main horde far away from the area. But don't miss this part. While they think they are safe, something far smarter is waiting in the dark, stalking them like fresh prey. Moving deeper, they hit the jackpot with years' worth of food. While the guys drooled over the cans, their female leader found the mattress section, relaxing and flopping down onto a soft bed. They joked about moving in permanently, but as they explored, 2 core members stepped out for a quick smoke, agreeing that as tempting as it looked, this supermarket would make a terrible fortress. Too many entrances to guard, and this gold mine would definitely attract aggressive raiders. A nearby 2-story house seemed safer, but they had to survive today first. The hidden predator finally struck. A sudden, blood-curdling scream from the back of the group shattered the peace. The guy ran, but no human can outrun a super mutant. Massive back claws impaled him through the chest, ending his life in a single heartbeat. The beast shredded him like wet paper. Terror paralyzed the team. Someone screamed to run, and though their legs shook, they bolted into a hopeless escape. The slowest ones were dragged down first. They ran with absolute desperation, pouring everything into their stride, hoping to outpace the nightmare right on their heels. Within seconds, the entire squad was slaughtered. Only the female leader remained, sprinting desperately toward the brilliant daylight of the exit. Pushing through her limits, she tripped. High heels are a terrible choice during the apocalypse. The massive mutant towered over her, savoring her absolute terror. She shielded herself, weeping, but looked up to see a different masked super mutant. Instead of killing her, he walked right past. Behind him, Jiang Xiaoyang appeared, telling her to relax. And yeah, I know what you were thinking. Quite a crazy coincidence, but she instantly recognized him as the guy who bought her land before the apocalypse. Xiaoyang recognized her too, the polite real estate agent from the old days. If he recalled correctly, her name was Ning Wanwan. Suddenly, flesh ripped nearby. Wanwan warned him about the monster, but Xiaoyang calmly smiled, saying it was handled. She turned to find the 2 beasts squaring off. The mole mutant saw a rival, while Brother Chong just saw trash to destroy. Meeting another of their kind for the first time, both freaks were eager to clash. Long claws slashed, barely missing Brother Chong. The freak wondered if cannibalizing another mutant would speed up his evolution. But as he laughed, Brother Chong silenced him with a thunderous punch. The heavy impact smashed the freak's head right into the tiles. Playtime was over. He had to take Brother Chong seriously now. Chong raised a massive foot over his face. Stomping an opponent while they are down is totally fair play here, but the naked mutant was fast enough to dodge. Still laughing, the mutant credited the humans he ate for his massive daily growth. Brother Chong sensed the danger. The savage freak lunged directly at his face with wild fury. Dozens of brutal blows traded in an instant. Jiangxi worried Brother Chong might actually lose, but Xiaoyang was just glad they made the trip. Left unchecked, this thing would have become unstoppable. To end this quickly, Xiaoyang pulled out an AK-47 from thin air, telling Brother Chong to hold the beast still for just 1 second. The loyal mutant obeyed instantly, pinning down his speedy target. Deafening gunfire echoed through the empty shopping mall. A bullet shattered his forehead, turning his brain into complete mush. But even a headshot cannot easily kill a super mutant. Furious, the wounded beast locked its sights on Xiaoyang. Jiangxi stood shocked. Who survives a direct bullet to the brain? Since 1 round did not work, Xiaoyang switched his rifle to full auto. The heavy rounds ripped the beast to shreds. It collapsed, twitching as the last bit of life faded. Xiao Yang suggested Brother Chong eat the carcass for power. That is one epic win. And trust me, you and I are going to love seeing his score rise as the system updates his mission. Since the market was untouched, they decided to grab some supplies. Xiao Yang used his storage ability to casually stash everything in his dimension, no heavy lifting needed. While Xiao Yang was away, some rats started making moves. All right, you and I are jumping right into the action as Boss Rui and her crew track their prey to scout the enemy's massive stronghold. Her second-in-command thinks the base has plenty of bodies but zero serious firepower, with only a tough warehouse going for them. But if they are so weak, how do they wipe out Jiang Qingwen and the Birchway Mountain Villa crew? Boss Rui figures they just used cheap tricks, like baiting a zombie horde. Overconfident as ever, she is already thanking the heavens for delivering easy prey and a brand new base right to her. For now, they decide to fall back, rally their forces, and prep their gear to strike when the fortress least expects it. With that, the scouts turn around and speed away. Meanwhile, Jiang Xiaoyang's group is heading home, with Jiang Qi bragging to Wan about their base having cozy mattresses and actual hot water. But seeing another car out here is dangerous, and everyone instantly locks and loads. Both vehicles fly past each other without tapping the brakes, but in one intense split second, Jiang Xiaoyang and Boss Rui sense a massive threat. Boom! A new system quest pops up, Villain Nemesis Volume 1. Stop the invasion to pocket 50 points. Xiaoyang instantly knows those mysterious drivers are the target. To double-check, he heads up to the watchtower and asks Shan Shan if she saw anything weird. She mentions a distant vehicle that bypassed their perimeter alarms, and that is all the proof our main character needs. He tells Uncle Shang and Old Li to call an emergency meeting. Meanwhile, over at the southern coal plant, things are running shockingly smooth. Using a sketchy radio broadcast, Boss Rui's gang baits survivors to their plant by promising a safe haven for workers. But these survivors are sharp after all. You do not survive this long by being dumb. Right on cue, Boss Rui and her scouts roll back in to greet their new guests. The second these guys lay eyes on her gorgeous face, any common sense they had completely flies out the window. Now pay attention to this part, because she uses her charms to completely lower their guard, inviting them into a trap while they trade clueless grins. Entering the massive, clean plant, they actually think they have hit the jackpot and found a real home. One of the guys asks if he can use the bathroom. Boss Rui offers to guide him inside, and this idiot eagerly takes the bait. But she's not just being polite. She stays while he is doing his business, sizing him up. Mistaking this for an invitation, he starts bragging about his strength and tells her not to be shy. One flash of her blade instantly shuts him up. Quick, clean, and totally unexpected. She might have spared him if he was useful, but after checking him out, he is not worth the hassle. Outside, her crew finishes their job too, slaughtering every single survivor lured in by that radio. Meanwhile, at the fortress, the crew gathers for a war council. Old Li wonders out loud who could possibly be crazy enough to pick a fight with them. Xiao Yang warns them that an ambush could hit at any moment. To prepare, he, Jiang Qi, and Brother Chong will head out to secure the unfinished buildings southeast of the base. They need to relocate the refugees there so they are not sitting ducks in temporary tents. Shan Shan and several others step up to help, including the twins who look absolutely nothing alike. Caught up in the hype, even little Shuai volunteers, earning a major eye roll from his mom. Ning Wanwan jumps in to join the sweep team, while Uncle Shang and Old Li stay behind to guard the fortress. The rest gear up. Under Xiao Yang's lead, their strike force marches out to prepare for the storm. The moment they breach the building, chaos erupts as they start slicing and dicing every zombie in sight. It is a brutal, high-intensity cleanup that really sharpens their skills. After surviving the first wave, Xiao Yang calls a breather to check on his crew. He warns them once more that dark times are ahead. They will bunk down here until they fully clear the area. When the refugees arrive, they actually volunteer to grab weapons and fight. Xiao Yang realizes they need every able-bodied fighter they can get. To boost their defense, he promises to distribute pistols and ammo later that evening. They set up walkie-talkies to stay coordinated between both structures. Meanwhile, back at the coal plant, Boss Rui oversees their sickening, secret cannibal kitchen. I know what you were thinking, and yes, it gets even darker. Her top lieutenants, one looking straight out of Full Metal Alchemist, are starving for fresh meat, while a furious Boss Rui demands payback for Birchway Mountain. Her two goons are clearly annoyed about working for their meals. Even so, they have already targeted their marks in the eastern suburbs. Tomorrow, Boss Rui and Number 2 lead the charge against those normies. As night falls on the base, Jiang Xiao Yang finally logs into his system. Armed with 46 hard-earned points, he is eager to see the daily shop crates. Inside the store, he spots a level 2 awakening power crate for 25 points, plus a level 2 farming crate, and a level 1 basic food bundle. Buying both tier 2 crates will cost him 40 points, but he decides to ball out. He opens the most expensive crate yet and unlocks the overload skill, a power that spikes his physical stats by 25% but leaves him completely drained afterward. Since he is already a beast, that 25% boost pushes him into godlike territory. He can now strike 8 times harder than any normal human. Our main character is itching to unleash this new skill on an unfortunate soul. The night passes in total silence, but morning brings a storm as a massive convoy of hostile vehicles rolls out of the coal plant. Boss Rui briefs her raiders one last time. Step 1. Slaughter the helpless refugees outside. Step 2. Let number 2 breach the gate while modified death machines rush in to lay down heavy fire. And that shirtless, starving mutant, number 2. Ready to tear things apart. But little do they know, the fortress is already locked down and waiting. Old Lee climbs to the highest peak. The visibility is rougher than the watchtower, but it keeps him perfectly hidden. Xiao Yang chose him because of his past life before he was a cop. He was a military sniper. Old Lee nervously laughs it off, correcting him that he only filled in as a sniper for a few months. Still, he can easily nail a headshot at 500 meters if the wind behaves, and that is all they need. Xiao Yang had Jiangqi drag a massive, heavy crate up to the roof. Opening it, the young man's jaw drops as he finds a pristine Barrett sniper rifle waiting inside. Old Lee is completely speechless. How does a kid get his hands on military-grade hardware? Xiao Yang just shrugs and warns him they only have 10 rounds, so make every single bullet count. The defense lines are fully set. Xiao Yang warns the team to keep their eyes peeled. The invaders will hit today. Suddenly, Shan Shan spots movement from the watchtower and alerts the squad. Peering through his high-powered scope, Old Lee confirms it. The enemy convoy is incoming fast. Inside her lead vehicle, Boss Rui's crew gets nervous, finding the outside refugee camp completely empty. But instead of halting, Boss Rui yells at them to floor it. They are already spotted, and stopping now ruins their momentum. The hostile vehicles charge forward, desperately racing to hug the base of the fortress walls. The second they cross the line, Shan Shan screams the order to fire. The defenders lean over the barricades, unleashing a relentless wall of lead with pistols and rifles. The raiders never expected this kind of heat as bullets shred windshields and flesh alike. This is supposed to be an ambush, but they are the ones getting slaughtered. Boss Rui is losing her mind over how her plan leaked, but they have passed the point of no return. So, let us see if this desperate gamble actually pays off for them. She orders a relentless charge even as her crew drops left and right, desperately trying to get her giant saw-wielding lieutenant close enough to destroy the gate. You and I are jumping right into a brutal siege where number 2 hacks at the metal gate with savage strength, while Shan Shan screams a warning about the incoming monster. Watchtower guards quickly raise their rifles and open fire, but Boss Rui and her crew retaliate with pistols and submachine guns to keep their beastly attacker hacking away. That intense enemy gunfire forces the green defenders back, and poor fatty Xiao Kai even takes a bullet to his shoulder, though thankfully the wound does not seem fatal. With the enemy showcasing terrifying accuracy and firepower, holding this position feels nearly impossible, but the veterans desperately urge the younger fighters to stay calm and just hold the line. While their ammunition could last a long shootout, it means nothing if that power saw breaches the main gate. Their tactical advantage is vanishing fast, but luckily, their level-headed boss has a backup plan ready as Xiao Yang quietly slips out of the fort, completely masking his presence. He sprints into the open field as if completely immune to gunfire, while Boss Rui's invaders waste half their bullets while waiting for number 2 to smash through. With just a few seconds left, the heavy barriers finally buckle and burst open. Shan Shan and her defenders rush down to reinforce the ground level, while Boss Rui smirks. They are finally inside after a brutal struggle, and now she is ready to watch these rookies face a flesh-eating evolver. Using number 2 as a literal meat shield, she orders her gang to push right behind him. The beast tosses the saw aside, tearing the entrance wider with his bare hands. Spotting a perfect line of sight, Xiao Yang signals Old Lee that it is time. Li Hongli calms his racing pulse, steadying his breath to lock onto the giant. As that massive skull appears, his crosshairs snap onto the target instantly, while number 2 bellows like an absolute demon. Now, pay attention here, because as soon as that giant steps inside, morale plummets. The defenders unleash a storm of lead, but his hide is simply too tough for ordinary bullets. The creature advances, absorbing bullet after bullet without any armor whatsoever. No matter the caliber, shots merely scratch him before ricocheting away, and his insane self-healing wipes those shallow marks clean. Boss Rui thoroughly enjoys their absolute terror, knowing they have never faced an evolver before. But up on the roof, the go-ahead reaches Li Hongli, who trusts his marksman skills and his powerful Barrett sniper rifle completely. The massive rifle recoils violently as he fires. With a single shot, the beast's head explodes into a shower of gore, and the seemingly invincible number 2 instantly collapses to the dirt. The invaders freeze in total disbelief. Their ultimate shield is gone, and who could have guessed this small outpost possessed such devastating firepower? Before they can process it, Xiao Yang ambushes their flank with his AK-47. His sudden gunfire breaks their stunned silence, turning the battlefield into a literal shooting gallery for our main character, while Boss Rui instantly realizes she led her crew straight into a meat grinder. Her arrogance just cost her squad their lives, but she is not going down without a fight. Gripping her submachine gun, she sprays wild cover fire while sprinting desperately toward the exit. Gritting her teeth, she scrambles to escape, suddenly recognizing Xiao Yang as the kid from the road yesterday. Desperate to save her own skin, she grabs one of her loyal henchmen without a second thought. She ruthlessly uses her own man as a human shield, and seeing her freakish reaction speed, Xiao Yang realizes she is an evolver as well. The riddled corpse is thrown straight at Xiao Yang, forcing him to leap aside and halt his firing. That split-second distraction is all Boss Rui needs to make a mad dash for her vehicle. But old Li refuses to let this invader escape after ruining their home. He scopes her in, wielding his massive sniper rifle as if he controls the heavens and the earth. I know what you are thinking, but he is no anime god. He misses her head completely, instead vaporizing her lightning-fast legs and sending Boss Rui crashing down inches from escape. Li Hongli curses his missed kill shot, but before he can chamber another round, a loyal thug drags her mangled body into the car. These cowards know how to survive, swerving away with their tails tucked. Xiao Yang commands his people to cease fire, unbothered if these fools ever return, since he has successfully cleared the system's defensive mission anyway. The sweet reward of 50 system points boosts his mood, especially with Chapter 2 the Nemesis quest now unlocked. Now it is his turn to raid the cannibals' camp for another 50 points. The entire fortress erupts in celebration of this massive victory. Though a few defenders suffered bullet wounds, thankfully nobody died. While the injured head to the clinic, the dead invaders are hauled to cold storage for Brother Chong's next meal. With security restored, the relieved refugees head back to their quarters. Once left alone, Xiao Yang eagerly reviews his newly earned points, absolutely thrilled to spend his wealth later tonight. Down at the coal plant in the southern suburbs, only 3 pathetic survivors limp back to base, with Boss Rui missing an entire leg. Number 3 greets them in utter disbelief, and a deeply humiliated Boss Rui confesses she severely underestimated the outpost's heavy artillery. She then barks at her men, demanding fresh human flesh to heal. Hearing her bark orders as if she still holds power, Number 3 slowly grins. Boss Rui keeps shrieking insults, calling them useless garbage who are not even worth their dead comrades' toes. That was the final straw for Number 3. This crippled woman is still talking down to them, completely oblivious to the looming mutiny. Panicking, she orders her thugs to execute him, but absolutely nobody moves. Even the loyal lackeys who carried her home pretend to be deaf. With Boss Rui crippled and Number 2 dead, Number 3 is now the strongest beast left to rule. The gang was already sick of her tyrannical rule, and they finally see an opening. Boss Rui pathetically tries to intimidate them, but as they slowly circle her, her tough facade completely crumbles. Led by Number 3, the mutinous gang releases their pent-up rage onto her. They brutally beat Boss Rui with heavy metal pipes, cackling and cheering with every blow. They mock her agonizing screams, and because of her superhuman durability, the savage beating goes on for hours. Once she is dead, Number 3 grins while wiping blood from his hands, nearly killing a lackey who calls him Boss 3. From this moment, he demands to be addressed as the big boss. But reality quickly sets in, and the gang realizes that with their top fighters dead, their biggest threat is not the Eastern Fortress. No, their true nightmare is the Tentacle Man, prompting the new leader to abandon the plant and seek shelter with the West Steel Group. A day later, Zhang Xiaoyong leads a few trusted allies deep into enemy territory, confirming the bandits were nesting here. He cautions Jiang Qi and Old Lei to keep quiet and follow his lead. After searching the premises, they find a ghost town. The only resident left is their female attacker from yesterday, rotting on the ground, clearly executed by her own crew. While his comrades stare in absolute shock, Xiaoyong is not surprised at all. Jiang Qi then asks about the hulking monster that breached their gate, who seemed totally different from Chen Chong but equally bizarre. Xiaoyong previously mentioned the existence of evolvers, so they eagerly ask how one attains such power. He drops a chilling truth, stating that one way is by consuming human flesh. That sickening revelation is enough to turn anyone's stomach, as he explains that cannibalism is the quickest shortcut to obtaining these mutated abilities. Knowing Xiaoyang also wields supernatural powers, a sweating Jiang Qi asks if he resorted to the same horrific path to throw away his humanity. Xiaoyang immediately stops him, explaining that while cannibalism is fast, other methods exist. He then reveals a glowing crimson crystal from his pocket, explaining that both evolvers and zombies are mutated beings who feed on this bizarre, exotic energy to grow stronger. Normal humans hold trace amounts, but evolvers condense this raw energy into powerful cores. And trust me, as this apocalypse drags on, you and I are going to see ordinary zombies form them too. Let's dive into this brutal post-apocalyptic world. Eating zombie meat sounds like a death sentence, right? But Xiaoyang reveals only mutants like Brother Chong can safely digest it to grow stronger. As they chat, the system suddenly alerts him Volume 2 of his Nemesis mission has cleared itself. The coal plant threat is officially history, but a stray zombie suddenly lunges at him. With lightning reflexes, he draws his blade and puts the monster down instantly. Turns out, this undead beast makes the perfect example for what he was just explaining. He slices out its core, declaring that as the zombie horde grows, hunting season has officially begun. Holding two cores, he offers them to Jiang Qi and Li Hongli to trigger their evolution. Jiang Qi is too grossed out to accept and passes, but Li Hongli chooses raw power over fear, desperately swallowing both of the glowing cores at once. The energy surges through old Li, making him feel stronger than ever as his body adapts. But Xiaoyang quickly warns him that being an evolver does not make him invincible. Taking the advice to heart, old Li promises to stay humble. With the threat cleared, they pack up. Meanwhile, the surviving coal plant members finally reach the West Steel Mill. The moment they arrive, a heavily armed guard blocks their path. Boss number 3 introduces himself as the coal plant's representative, but the cautious guard makes them wait outside. Eventually, they are granted entry. The steel mill's bosses immediately demand to know where Jing Rui and number 2 are. Number 3 lies through his teeth, claiming they were ambushed and killed. This shocking news catches the bald leader's attention. He orders the survivors taken to his safe house, while he quietly retreats to plot with his partner. But this supposed safe house turns out to be a trap. Even locked inside, number 3 keeps boasting about his brand new rank. He is so blinded by his own ego that he misses the obvious red flags. One of his men has to point out the iron bars and locked doors. This is a prison. Before they can react, the guard returns and barks orders for them to step outside. When they emerge, they find the entire steel mill crew waiting for them. Now pay attention, because this is where the betrayal backfires. The female boss accuses number 3 of selling out Boss Rui, ignoring his desperate pleas of innocence. His fate is already sealed. Boss Ling completely dismisses his lies, calling forward her scout, Li Cheng. The scout reveals he found Li Jingrui dead in the courtyard, and number 2 was completely missing. With no signs of a struggle, betrayal is the only logical conclusion. Number 3 desperately screams his innocence, but in this savage wasteland, nobody waits for a fair trial. The steel mill only tolerated the coal plant because of Jing Rui's formidable power. Now that she is dead, these fools have walked right into a pack of starving wolves. Terrified, one henchman begs for mercy, offering valuable secrets to save his skin. Boss Ling lets him speak, looking completely amused by his desperation. The snitch spills everything about the supply-rich eastern settlement, where their powerhouse leaders were defeated. When pressed on their military strength, he estimates both bases are roughly equal. But there is a catch. He claims the eastern group knows nothing about becoming evolvers. Li Cheng listens intently, looking deeply puzzled at the sudden mention of these superhuman abilities. Boss Pang refuses to believe Jingrui could lose to normal humans. The snitch quickly clarifies that the eastern group possesses massive, high-caliber weapons capable of vaporizing someone like number 2. Boss Ling loves the intel, but she has zero respect for a traitor. The moment she signals her guards, the coal plant men freeze in sheer horror. Their screams echo through the mill until every last one of them is silenced. The coal plant faction is wiped out. Now, Boss Peng is growing deeply concerned. Boss Ling advises caution, suggesting they hold off until they can match those heavy weapons. First, they need to evolve further. They will send scouts to verify if these enemies are truly helpless beginners. Meanwhile, Jiang Xiaoyang kicks back in his room, browsing the system shop with his 126 points. Surprisingly, a level 2 black tech supply box is up for grabs for just 50 points. He instantly buys out the shop, leaving himself with 71 points. The massive food crates yield 500 kilograms of premium lotus root powder, cocoa butter, and cooking oil. But the real prize is the legendary Pla's 20 Physical Enhancement Serum. Suddenly, a heavy knock on his door breaks his concentration. Xiao Yang enters to report they captured a shady guy lurking near their borders. Intrigued, Jiang Xiaoyang gets up to inspect. Jiang Qi and Old Li already have the intruder pinned, though he desperately insists he is not their enemy. Let's pause here. Is this guy actually friendly? When Xiaoyang arrives, the intruder introduces himself as Shu Axing from the massive Westwind steel mill. That name immediately puts Uncle Sheng on high alert. Westwind lies just southwest of them, and like the coal plant, it has turned into a massive survivor base only 3 kilometers away. If they are that close, why is he here? Puffing his chest, Axing claims his leader wants them to work together during these tough times. He boasts about a recruitment mission, but Xiao Kai is not buying it. The guy was caught drawing a map of their base. When they pull it from his pocket, Axing can only offer a nervous, guilty grin. To uncover the truth, Xiao Yang activates his Mind Eye skill. One glance at Axing's soul reveals he is secretly looking down on them. Xiao Yang stops playing nice. Without hesitation, he presses a cold gun barrel straight to Axing's forehead. He knows this spy took him for a fool, and if the truth doesn't come out, he is dead. Terrified, Axing gulps. Even facing death, Axing stubbornly sticks to his story. Xiao Yang pulls Jiang Qi aside, checking if the spy has ever laid eyes on Brother Chong. Fortunately, he has not. Surprisingly, Xiao Yang orders his men to release the spy, even returning the hand-drawn map. Overjoyed that his acting actually worked, Axing bolts out of the fortress before they can change their minds. Watching the spy run, Xiao Yang smiles, already calculating how many system points that steel mill is worth. After that, 5 peaceful months quickly slip by. But back at the West Steel Mill, panic is rising as their members vanish one by one. They know exactly who is behind it, yet they are totally powerless. The terrifying tentacle monster is active once again, and absolutely nobody knows how to stop it. 2 trash collectors freeze in terror after hearing movement in the waste pile, and before one can run, a sharp blade ends him. Hearing the agonizing screams, Li Chang rushes over. The sole survivor of the trash pile attack hysterically blames the legendary tentacle monster for his friend's brutal death. Any mention of that beast demands immediate action, especially after a daylight attack. Armed and ready, Li Chang orders civilians to hide and gathers special evolvers with quick escape abilities. Reaching the trash heap, they spot a suspicious silhouette. Li Chang warns his men to avoid a direct fight and flee if spotted. But as he looks closer, the feared monster is missing. Fresh tracks mark the dirt. It seems the beast already dragged its prey away. Ever since Peachtree Mountain and the southern coal plant fell, the mysterious abductions have only escalated. This beast used to roam across multiple territories, but now the steel mill is its primary hunting ground. Yet, Li Chang suspects this particular attack is a different player's game. And that is where we leave it for now, with our hero outliving his previous timeline. You and I can see civilization actually has a chance of being rebuilt. You and I are jumping back in as his community score hits 38, but that stubborn system mission for West Steel Mill still has not triggered. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew has been grinding. When Shang Shan and the team get back from their run, Xiao Yang casually flexes by dropping straight from the high wall to the ground. Jiang Xiaoyang reports a successful run. At this point, nobody can touch them or even track them. Even little Xiaoning is out there joining the adults on hunts now. Under Shuya's watchful eye, the kid is turning into a beast. Today, he actually took down a zombie all by himself. Thanks to Villain Nemesis Volume 3, the Fortress Squad is busy hunting zombies, saving allies, and hoarding mutant cores. Xiao Yang is still skeptical about making friends, though. Maybe the system actually wants him to deal with West Steel Mill. With the system staying silent, he decides to make the first move and sneak inside alone. Of course, Old Li hates the idea. Uncle Shang points out they have been spotting enemy scouts for months, meaning war is coming. But Xiao Yang is not worried. With his current power, not even Brother Chong can touch him. It is time to see if this steel mill is friend or foe. He leaves Uncle Shang and Old Li in charge of the fortress and the refugee town. The defenses should hold up, but the crew cannot help but worry. If Xiao Yang falls, the whole base might crumble. Meanwhile, over at the steel mill, Li Chang returns from checking the trash. He tries to talk to the bosses, but the guards block his path. Losing his temper, Li Chang grabs a guard by the throat and lifts him off the ground. Realizing he is losing control again, he forces himself to relax, drops the guy, and apologizes. Honestly, Li Chang has been terrified of these sudden outbursts for months. Controlling his anger is getting harder. Luckily, the bosses recognize his voice and let him enter. Li Chang steps inside cautiously, finding Boss Ling alone in her office. He brings up a new theory about the recent disappearances. Now pay attention here. because he found a woman's footprints at the scene, proving another killer is on the loose. Boss Ling does not deny it, but tells him to keep quiet. The monster has already terrified the entire camp, and they cannot risk causing more panic. Li Cheng tries to argue, but the second Boss Ling leans in close, he completely freezes and blushes. Flustered, he awkwardly excuses himself and leaves. Li Cheng is a dangerous fighter, but around her, his brain completely shuts down. Suddenly, a mocking voice from the back room calls for Sloppy. Boss Ling snaps back, telling him to take over if he hates her style. That creepy voice belongs to Baldy Peng, who is currently busy carving up the poor garbage boy's corpse. Lately, Ling does the murdering, while Baldy scrubs the crime scenes. They dump the heads and actually devour the remains. Meanwhile, Xiao Yang is hacking through zombies, heading straight for the mill. As he nears the perimeter, he needs a disguise. Pulling a pair of scissors from his inventory, he decides to do something absolutely mental. He blindly chops off his own hair, rubs handfuls of dirt all over his face, and finishes the look with glasses. Honestly, even as a fake beggar, the guy looks pretty good. But as he approaches the facility, a sharp-eyed guard spots him. An outsider lurking near their borders is highly suspicious, but Xiao Yang just plays dumb, acting thrilled to find living humans. Once the guard realizes he is alone, his attitude turns hostile. He demands to know how Xiao Yang survived this long. Our hero spins a fake story about being part of a 10-person group that got completely wiped out by a horde, leaving him as the sole survivor. When the guard asks if he can fight, Xiao Yang claims he is pretty handy. Surviving countless undead attacks made him a decent fighter. The guard is trying to fish for information, wanting to know if he is an evolver. Since Xiao Yang plays dumb, the guard leads him inside, warning him that he has to pass a test first. From that warning alone, Xiao Yang knows this place is a viper nest. As they walk up to the gates, Li Cheng spots the newcomer being marched inside. The guard stammers, claiming he is just taking this lone survivor somewhere quiet for a quick security check. Li Cheng is not buying it. If they are going to search him, they can do it right here. He takes charge, ordering the stranger to hand over all weapons before entering. Xiao Yang hesitates, saying he hates walking into a strange camp completely unarmed. Li Cheng gets the caution, but rules are rules. Still acting reluctant, Xiao Yang hands over his blade. But you and I know he has got plenty more weapons hidden in his inventory anyway. Li Cheng pat-downs him thoroughly to check for hidden gear. Xiao Yang is genuinely surprised to find a guy with actual morals and place this incredibly corrupt. This guy is nothing like the absolute savages at Bichu or the coal plant. Noticing the stranger survived with just a tiny blade, Li Cheng asks if he is an evolver. Xiao Yang plays dumb, claiming he just feels stronger daily. To play it safe, Li Cheng decides to bring him to the boss first. For now, Xiao Yang is thrown into their reception room, which is basically a prison cell complete with a heavy, reinforced steel door. A few minutes later, Boss Peng slides the door open and steps inside, demanding his name. Xiao Yang pauses, then feeds him the fake name, Jiang Ye. Peng wants to see if this Jiang Ye is actually an evolver, and the fastest test is a physical one. Without warning, Baldy Peng hurls a sharp hatchet straight at his face. Jiang Ye casually tilts his head, letting the blade bury itself in the wall. He considers throwing a counter-punch, but realizing this is just a test, he stays in character and screams at Peng for almost splitting his skull open. Peng laughs like a maniac. That dodge is all the proof he needs. Since they are both evolvers, Peng immediately presses him to explain exactly how he gained his powers. He drops a dark hint about their cannibalistic evolution method and warns Jiang Ye to keep his mouth shut. Only a few people in camp know, and if anyone leaks it, Peng is coming for his head. To make his point, he lunges forward, mimicking a neck-crushing choke. Thank goodness it is just a bluff. If Peng had actually attacked, Xiao Yang would have retaliated, and killing this boss now would totally ruin the upcoming mission rewards. Peng is actually impressed that Jiang Ye reacted fast enough to draw a weapon. Still, he warns the kid that despite his skills, he is nowhere near his level. So, any thoughts of rebellion should stay buried. After that little test, Peng tells his crew to treat Jiang Ye well, get him some clean clothes, let him wash, and bring him to the meeting. Once he is all cleaned up, the sharp-looking Jiang Yi is escorted to meet the other evolvers. Peng introduces Huang Ling as his partner, with Li Cheng and Huang Bin serving as officers. Huang Bin is tasked with showing the newcomer the ropes. Boss Ling praises Jiang Ye for finding the strongest camp around. Here, surviving is easy. But if he wants to eat the good stuff, he must prove his value. Jiang Ye promises to grind hard and follow orders. Everything is going perfectly. He has arrived just in time for Huang Bin's patrol. After grabbing Ah Chang and Ah Xing, the squad heads out. Ah Shang clearly hates having the new guy tag along, but since Jiang Ye already knows their revolver's secret, this is the only squad he can join. Throughout the entire patrol, Ah Shang keeps glaring at him. Luckily, Huang Bin is pretty fair and breaks down how their camp operates. In this entire steel mill, only Peng, Huang Ling, and this four-man team know that cannibalism is how they evolve. Ah Xing is Peng's cousin, and Ah Chang is Boss Ling's nephew. Since they are all family, any leak would immediately point to the outsider. This makes Jiang Ye uneasy, especially with Ah Xing staring so intensely. And that is where we leave things. Because our main character just realized that Old Man is the same scout caught sneaking around months ago, but the strong officer Li Chang still knows absolutely nothing about their sickening secret. Alright, you and I are diving into a world where cannibalism is a dark secret. If Li Chang finds out, two bodies hang in the mill, telling our main character plenty. The bosses were clearly holding Li Chang back because his sheer talent eclipsed theirs. Reaching the zone boundary, Huang Bin ordered a halt near a small camp housing 7 survivors. His crew had scouted them for 4 days with zero signs of any evolvers. When Jiang Ye asked if they were hunting them, Huang Bin just laughed. To them, raising was a better term, telling Jiang Ye to drop his useless morals. To these evolvers, normal humans were a different species entirely. They truly believed they were the ultimate apex predators. So, the plan was simple: bag the survivors, herd them like cattle, and slaughter them later. They did not even need all 7. 5 or 6 would do. The rest could rot here. For now, the rookie just had to watch and learn. This small group had lived peacefully for months, building up their cozy shelter. But right as they were repairing their camp, a massive zombie horde suddenly breached their defenses. The survivors grabbed their weapons to make a stand, but carrying guns means absolutely nothing if you freeze under pressure. As allies dropped one by one, a terrified builder could only tremble, waiting for death. Meanwhile, Jiang Ye and the patrol stood by, calmly listening to the horrific screams. Huang Bin claimed this cruel weeding was necessary since they lacked supplies for extra mouths. Once the undead thinned the herd, Huang Bin's squad finally struck. A woman shrieked as monsters lunged at her. But then, in a flash, the surrounding zombies were decapitated. She froze in disbelief. A second ago, she was dead meat. And now, a savior was offering her a hand. Huang Bin smashed skulls with a hammer, while AXing sliced with lethal twin daggers. Having cleared the threat, Huang Bin introduced his crew as evolvers from the Westwind Steel plant. These people had no idea what an evolver was, but they were just happy to survive. Still, that brief clash gave Jiang Yi great intel, proving this team matched Jiang Qi's squad. Suddenly, his body tensed up as a predatory vibe washed over him. Glancing at an empty window in a nearby building, he saw nothing and brushed it off as a mind trick. Huang Bin ordered him back to assist with cleanup. Yet, Jiang Ye could not shake that eerie feeling from the ruins, and his instincts were spot on. Something terrifying was watching. Now pay attention, because these clueless survivors just leaked some incredibly valuable info about a supply warehouse. Jiang Ye oversaw the collection while the others prepped their truck. His job also included stacking the fresh corpses. The remaining living followed Huang Bin around like he was a god, which actually suited Jiang Ye perfectly, leaving him free to explore alone. Marching back to the mill, the survivors praised Huang Bin endlessly. When a naive girl asked A Chang about showers, the creep grabbed her instantly, bragging about their hot water and soap. Suddenly, the atmosphere chilled as A Xing's instincts flared up. Sensing the sudden danger, Huang Bin snapped, shouting for the group to brace themselves before whatever it was arrived. A Chang kept molesting the poor girl despite her clear discomfort. Though A Xing sensed the threat first, he still could not pinpoint the exact direction of the incoming strike. But his instincts were right. There was something out there. A Chang became the first casualty when a razor-sharp tip skewered his neck before he could even register the attack. Huang Bin instantly panicked, recognizing the horrific assault. The infamous tentacle monster had arrived. The appendage retracted, leaving them terrified, before the beasts suddenly bypassed their defenses, closing in on Huang Bin. While the group got shredded by this beast, Jiang Ye casually harvested mutant cores from fallen zombies. Finding 2 cores in one horde? Not a bad haul at all. He would have kept looting if desperate shrieks had not interrupted him. Huang Bin was completely done for. The creature's heavy tentacles had coiled tightly around his entire frame. With a brutal squeeze, the beast crushed his body until blood sprayed, snapping his leg with an audible crunch. The survivors panicked. Even A Chang's tough guy act completely evaporated. He looked utterly broken. Sensing he was the last remaining threat, the beast locked onto the final evolver. A Chang slowly backed up, totally frozen in terror. To buy time, Alright, You and I are about to watch one badass savior arrive in style, slicing tentacles to free this woman. Maybe Zhang Ye and his blade really can handle the beast everyone fears. Looking the creature over, Zhang does not seem scared at all. That is because this isn't the real monster, just one of its spawns, as the Steel Mill crew calls them. Apparently, the main boss mutters the word son while turning normal zombies into these tentacled freaks. Even their top fighters would struggle with one alone, or so A Chang believed. So, he looks for a chance to run. He shouts for Zhang Ye to hold it off while he gets help, then bolts. The terrified survivors follow him, leaving Zhang to hear their betrayal plain as day. That coward straight up abandoned him. Furious about those deep cuts, the beast recovers and charges Zhang Yi. Newly regrown tentacles wrap around him, but he does not even fight it. Now pay attention, because he is actually curious about this mutant spawn. He stays calm because he has the power to back it up, wanting to test the nasty creature for himself. A brutal tug-of-war begins between them. Suddenly, it hits Zhang Ye. He has never truly tested the unique ability he awakened months ago. Today seems like the perfect time. Planting his feet, steady as a rock, he finally activates physical overload, pushing his body to an insane level instantly. The boost is absurd. Before, he was barely holding his own. Now, he is dragging the monster across the dirt. He stops it dead with a single step. The beast cannot speak, but its roar completely changes. It sounds terrified now. The only remaining survivor watches in utter shock. A totally normal-looking young man is tearing apart a monster that crushed a whole squad of fighters with his bare hands. I know what you're thinking, this is brutal. The monster is torn apart, and when Zhang Ye asks the crushed woman if she is okay, she screams in terror at his bloody face. To her, he is the real nightmare now. Zhang Ye wipes his face, smiles, and assures her he is human. Meanwhile, A Chang and the runaways finally reach the mill gates. At the entrance, Baldy Peng, Boss Ling, and Li Chang demand to know why A Chang looks wrecked. A Chang frantically explains that their comrades were just slaughtered by the tentacle spawn. Only Li Chang asks about the new guy. But A Chang assumes Zhang Ye is dead. No rookie survives that. Hearing his cousin was killed, Baldy Peng explodes in absolute fury. With nowhere to direct his blinding rage, he blames the survivors. Baldy starts hacking them down on the spot with his hatchet. They cannot afford a riot, but at least Baldy cools off after slaughtering a few. Suddenly, the chaos is cut short as a massive bundle of tentacles drops, catching everyone's attention. Looking up, they see their newest recruit, Zhang Ye, standing beside the rescued woman. Li Chang is genuinely surprised and highly impressed that this rookie actually made it back alive. Not only that, he returns in absolute triumph, presenting the saved girl and severed monster parts. He coolly explains that he destroyed the beast, avenging the boss's fallen family. After that epic feat, the bosses see him differently. And as we leave things here, Zhang Ye calmly asks for trucks and men to harvest the loot. Trust me, things are getting wild. Alright, you and I are diving right back into the action where the bosses are grilling A Chang. That coward still refuses to believe our main character took down a monster that wiped out an entire squad alone. In his mind, even Boss Ling and Baldy Peng combined would have barely survived that beast. Baldy was just too blinded by his own first impressions. He figured a guy who looked so sloppy during his test cannot actually be strong. Boss Ling assumed the monster only got those kills through a cheap surprise attack. Either way, they could not leave a powerhouse like him running wild, especially since he was getting close to Li Chang. Suddenly, footsteps echoed outside, and Boss Ling ordered silence just as Li Chang walked in. First, he offered his respect for the fallen members. Then, he suggested promoting Zhang Ye to officer rank due to his sheer power. Baldy Peng shut that down instantly, saying they knew nothing about him. Boss Ling cut him off, agreeing that the kid had officer-tier strength, but insisted he had to prove it to the entire mill. Li Chang argued that slaying that monster was proof enough. So, Boss Ling proposed a real test hunting the actual boss monster. If he succeeded, 2 problems solved. Li Chang immediately snapped, calling the whole thing completely unfair. After all, even the 2 bosses together could not beat that thing. But Boss Ling promised it was not a suicide run. The entire steel mill would launch an all-out assault together. The moment he returned from hauling supplies, the bosses laid out the plan. Zhang Ye was genuinely surprised they were building an entire operation around him so quickly. Boss Ling stroked his ego, calling him the strongest warrior in the entire settlement. Baldy Peng chimed in, promising him the 3rd leadership seat if the hunt succeeded. He mockingly asked Li Chang if he was okay being outranked by a rookie, and Li Chang forced a nod. The launch was set for 2 days. Zhang Ye had to admit these guys were great actors. But pay attention here, his mind's eye skill let him see right through their rotten lies. Now, Let's head over to the Eastern Fortress, where everyone is on edge. Their undercover boss was finally calling in. Old Lee and the crew crowded around the radio, listening intently as Xiao Yang laid out the plan to crush the steel mill. The meetup was set in 2 days at the South Suburban Park to wipe out this final threat. Old Lee took charge of the logistics, deciding Uncle Sheng should stay behind to guard their home base. This operation was incredibly risky, meaning their top elite fighters had to be ready. Brother Chong, Shan Shan, and Zhang Qi would be leading the charge. From the corner, little Shui pleaded to join the fight, but his mother instantly shut him down. War was no place for kids, except she had not seen him out on the hunts. The kid was no weakling and could easily hold his own among the elite. Old Lee needed every fighter he could get, and real battle experience was best learned early. 2 days flew by and the hunt was on. Baldy Peng and Boss Ling guided the massive group straight to the monster's territory. Zhang Ye asked how they planned to lure the beast out, but Baldy told him to hold his horses. Scanning the area, Zhang Ye spotted a familiar signal from his fortress team hiding on a nearby rooftop. Armed to the teeth, his crew watched from above. They had strict orders from their boss to hold position, so for now, they silently prepped their climbing ropes. They would strike from the flank once the battle began. Down on the street, Boss Ling waved over a thin porter boy who asked what she needed. With a sickening smile, she ordered him to walk into the park. These porters were just gear carriers, and Li Chang could not stand by and watch this cruelty. To Boss Ling, a young boy was the perfect bait. The monster kept crying for its son, so they would serve one up. She promised to rescue him, but the starving kid was absolutely terrified. Since nobody wanted to be bait, Baldy Peng took charge. He grabbed the boy's collar, threatened his life, and used his superhuman strength to hurl the poor kid deep into the park. The impact must have hurt badly. Up above, Old Lee saw things finally moving. He gave the signal, and his team began rappelling down the ropes to get into position. I know what you were thinking, someone help that kid. But as he cried out, a booming voice muttered the words son, and the massive boss monster finally showed itself. It looked similar to the creature Zhang Yi killed before, but this one had human features. Its eyes burned with pure, murderous rage. Li Chang screamed at the bosses to save the boy now that the target was out. When they ignored him, he tried to rush in, but Boss Ling held him back, claiming Zhang Yi had to go first. Stealing the credit was their cheap excuse. Zhang Yi just smiled at the sheer absurdity of it all. The masks were finally slipping away. Before the tentacles could strike, Zhang Yi burst forward with explosive speed. He snatched the kid by his shirt and flung him back to absolute safety. Li Chang caught him in midair. Enraged by the interference, the beast lashed out. With his fake glasses shattered, Zhang Xiaoyang was back, but the monster quickly wrapped him up. Up close, Xiaoyang noticed something bizarre about the beast. Seeing the boy safe, Li Chang prepared to charge, but the bosses blocked him, letting Zhang Ye face certain death. Li Chang still did not realize this was their plan all along. But Ling found his ignorance hilarious, assuming their new recruit was already a goner. Perhaps his first victory was just sheer luck. While Li Chang remained completely clueless, Zhang Xiaoyang decided it was time to speak up. He openly exposed the steel mill bosses for being literal cannibals. Before Li Chang could even process this, the Eastern Fortress crew opened fire. Bullets rained down on the steel mill group from the flank. The invaders split into 2 squads, one to suppress the evolvers and the other to support Xiaoyang. Little Shuai charged with a burning Molotov cocktail in his hand. The wild kid threw it with everything he had, causing the beast to slap it away, which only ignited the monster in raging flames. But instead of screaming from the fire, the beast froze, staring at the young boy. It seemed a piece of its human mind had suddenly returned. The creature completely forgot about the captive in its grasp. Hearing little Shuai cursing made the monster react with even greater emotion. This was clearly no ordinary mutant. Luckily, our heroes had their own secret weapon. Brother Chong rushed in, easily dodging the crashing tentacles with absolute grace. Meanwhile, the steel mill leaders huddled behind cover, completely shocked to see a mutant fighting on behalf of humans. It made absolutely no sense to them. Brother Chong fought hard but could not land a clean blow. Trapped in a cage of limbs, he used raw power to rip himself free. But that was just a distraction for a sneak attack from behind. If his team had not warned him, a tentacle would have pierced his skull. Both sides backed off to catch their breath. Seeing his ally struggle, the captured Xiaoyang laughed and teased him, leaving Baldy Peng utterly speechless. And that is where we leave it. Watch closely as he rips those tentacles like paper, while the enemies finally realize they messed with the wrong guy. All right, you and I are diving into a massive trap. Old Zhu warned them about the Eastern Fortress leader, but this young man completely played them. The hunt was a setup all along. This meant the steel mill crew was the actual target, cornered by a massive fortress army. Boss Ling scanned the enemy lines, desperately trying to find a way out of this mess. Their top warrior was probably only match for Li Qiang, but their firearms gave them a massive advantage. Worst of all, though, was their real nightmare, Jiang Xiaoyang. To make matters worse, that masked mutant was just as deadly as the tentacle beast. Boss Ling knew survival was a long shot, and fighting back meant a bloodbath. Still, she had one desperate plan left. First, Baldy Pang had to stall the fortress squad. These two were longtime partners who synced perfectly. Baldy hurled his hatchet with ridiculous power, making it glow red-hot like a falling meteor. The weapon detonated right in front of the fortress team, kicking up a massive dust storm that blinded them. Baldy Pang pressed the advantage, unleashing heavy strikes while his gunners laid down cover fire. The explosive chaos pinned Old Li and his men down, forcing them to scramble for cover. While everyone was distracted, Boss Ling locked her eyes on a different target, the youngest kid, little Shui. Xiao Kai was the only one quick enough to spot her, throwing himself in front of the kid. He tried to block, but Boss Ling launched a lightning-fast kick. Fatty Kai went flying backward. He stood no chance against an elite-level fighter. In a flash, Boss Ling snatched little Shui right by his collar. The entire battlefield froze in absolute shock. This was their absolute worst nightmare come true. Little Shui thrashed wildly, refusing to be a helpless pawn, but her grip was like iron. To shut him up, Boss Ling cracked him right in the face. Yet, the boy was not the one who felt that blow most. The tentacle beast roared in absolute fury, seeing his boy get hurt. Brother Chong seized the distraction, leaping onto the rampaging creature's shoulders. But as he got into position, he realized something was incredibly off. The monster completely ignored him. Suddenly, Xiao Yang shouted for Brother Chong to back off. It made no sense to him, but Xiao Yang knew the beast was prepared to sacrifice everything for what it loved. Watch closely. Tightening her grip on little Shui's neck, Boss Ling threatened to snap his spine unless the fortress crew immediately disarmed. Li Hongli desperately begged her to trade him for the kid. Watching the fortress warriors completely lose their minds, Boss Ling smirked, loving every second of her hostage leverage. If the boy died, they could never look his mother in the eye. Boss Ling barked her orders again, telling them to drop their gear and back up 100 meters. Old Li, wanting to keep the kid alive, lowered his weapon and signaled his crew. They had no cards left to play, but Boss Ling was not finished. Next, she commanded the masked mutant to slaughter the tentacle beast. She was so drunk on power she never saw the incoming threat. The tentacle beast launched itself at her like a homing missile, forcing her to dump the kid and dodge. Some unfortunate goons caught in the crossfire were instantly ripped to shreds. Baldy Pang watched in absolute horror as another fighter under his command was crushed into a bloody pulp. Boss Ling assumed her masked ally was keeping the beast busy, but when she looked at Jiang Xiaoyang, he was just grinning. The mutant simply stood next to him, and neither of them paid any attention to the battle. Li Honglei screamed for the kid to run, but heavy tentacles had already locked onto him. Xiaoyang yelled for them to chill out because the kid was safe. Safe inside the tentacles, at least. Nobody got what he meant, seeing the boy wrapped in those limbs, but the beast cradled him gently, whispering, "Son." Xiaoyang then reminded them of his vow to protect Jiang Shengji's family. Yes, this terrifying creature was someone they had already crossed paths with before. Jiang Shengji obviously suffered the exact same grotesque mutation as Brother Chong. The moment little Shuai recognized the remnants of his father inside that beast, he broke down weeping. Staring in disbelief, Baldy Pang screamed that this was pure madness and ordered an immediate retreat. Too bad for him, they had just crossed a monster far beyond their league. Gently holding his boy, Shengji lashed out his tentacles for absolute vengeance. Baldy Pang was snatched first, bones cracking. He shrieked for Boss Ling to pull him out, but the partnership that saved them in the past was officially dead. Let's pause here. Huang Ling bolted straight for the forest, trying to save her own skin and ditch her crew. She knew they stood no chance against the beast, so she used Wang Depeng as meat shield bait, hoping he'd buy her time. Unlucky for her, the scheme failed instantly. She was too slow, and slimy tentacles wrapped around her ankles before she could escape. She slammed face first onto the hard pavement, shattering her glasses and crushing her nose. She knew right then that things were going south. The tentacles dragged her kicking and screaming back into the park. Baldy Pang actually smirked. Since she tried to leave him for dead, seeing her dragged back felt like instant karma. Still, he needed help, so he desperately turned his gaze toward Li Cheng. Before that loyal fool could rescue the boss who had just abandoned him, Jiang Xiaoyang flashed right behind him. His offer was straightforward: stay put, and you get to live. Xiaoyang was leaving the rest to the tentacle beast, and it was a complete bloodbath. First up was Baldy Pang, whose shiny head got smashed into the dirt. That first strike left him completely dazed, likely causing an instant concussion. Then, Shengji finished him. The tentacles ripped him to pieces, leaving nothing but a mangled heap of flesh and blood. With Baldy gone, Boss Ling was next. Her physical strength meant absolutely nothing in that crushing hold. Her life belonged to those slimy tentacles now. The end was slow and agonizing, squeezing her until blood sprayed from her face. The pressure intensified until she was turned into a pile of minced meat. Shengji ensured she suffered the worst possible death for touching his son. With the last boss dead, Nemesis of Evil Volume 3 was officially complete. Xiao Yang gained 80 more points, hitting a total of 151. Finally, the hint about an ally made sense. He had recruited a powerful mutant. Xiao Yang then faced Li Cheng, who was bursting with questions. He asked if Xiao Yang truly led the Eastern Fortress, before questioning the horrific mention of cannibalism during the fight. Xiao Yang replied coldly, "People do not gain power through pure luck." Slowly, the dark pieces started fitting together in Li Cheng's mind. He recalled his early days at the steel mill, caring for a mother and her young daughter. The little girl had once begged him for some canned meat, and he handed it over freely, thinking nothing of it. Suddenly, the horrific truth clicked, and he went entirely numb. Days after he shared that meat, the very first tentacle beast attacks started. The woman he protected had lost her daughter right after. The attacks were just a sick cover story to purge their own people. The realization made him physically ill. That special canned meat fed to the top fighters was harvested from human flesh. The steel mill bosses forced him to evolve by tricking him into eating humans. Li Cheng absolutely lost his mind, pounding his dead boss's remains into mush while screaming as blood coated his face. When he finally collapsed from exhaustion, he was drenched in crimson. He glared at Xiao Yang, bared his teeth, and demanded to know if he attained his power the same disgusting way. Li Hongli stepped up to clear the air, explaining they were not monsters, just better informed. With Xiao Yang's deep knowledge, they had clean methods to grow strong, and Xiao Yang tossed him a mutant core as proof. These cores are extremely rare, but they pack far more power without the horrific side effects. Side effects that Li Cheng was already starting to feel. People made through cannibalism cannot control their emotions and easily slip into psychotic rages. Unfortunately, Li Cheng could never be normal again. His only hope was to stop consuming flesh so the cravings wouldn't consume him. As for Shengji, you and I can agree, it is great they reunited. When asked if he could speak, the father replied in raw, broken words. What a wild ride. Let's dive into a world where humanity is mutating into terrifying beasts, but some still keep their human souls. Xiao Yang understood Sheng Jie's broken speech perfectly. Dragging a giant tentacle monster back to camp would terrify the survivors. Luckily, Sheng Jie was content just seeing his boy safe and sound. Sheng Ji praised the kid's high IQ. Meanwhile, the leaderless Westwind steel mill needed a boss. Li Cheng was a candidate, but after tasting human flesh, he knew he could not be trusted to lead. Instead, the former cop Li Hongli took charge of the mill. As for Li Cheng, he swore to suppress his dark cannibalistic urges if allowed into the fortress. But as one crisis settled, a brand new nightmare was unfolding near the borders of City S. A group of survivors was running for their lives. Grotesque plant monsters hunted them through a thick green mist. Hard choices had to be made, abandoning the slow and weak. When those deadly vines closed in, survival meant running, and run they did. The stragglers met an agonizing end. As the parasitic green fog expanded, the alien vines digested human flesh, leaving nothing but unrecognizable bones behind. Then the freshly killed corpses stood back up, puppeteered by the parasitic plants. City S was pure hell. Running out of stamina, one exhausted woman collapsed. Her boyfriend desperately dragged her, knowing that stopping meant certain death. Suddenly, a rushing sound echoed. It was the howling wind, meaning the forest edge was finally within reach. Escape was close, but the flesh-eating plants were closer. Every second mattered. The struggling couple urged each other forward, and moments later, blinding sunlight broke through the canopy. Watch closely, because a sentient vine suddenly lashes out. It wraps tight around her neck, lifting her off her feet as she chokes. A massive mutant Venus flytrap instantly rips her body in two, dropping her lower half to the bloody grass. The boyfriend completely lost it, screaming for Xiao Tong. But with the plant horde closing in, their leader slapped him hard across the face to snap him out of his panic. Xiao Tong was gone, and crying would not bring her back. He had to choose between survival and death. Finally, the survivors broke out of the woods. The leafy monsters pursued them, slow but relentless in their overwhelming numbers. Pressing onward, the leader recognized the terrain. They had crossed over into the M City Wilderness Park. Strangely, the park was dead silent. No humans, no walkers, nothing. Perhaps this zone had already evacuated. Suddenly, they spotted a clumsy figure trying to hide behind a street pole. Believing he was a harmless human, they asked him for directions to the evacuation zone. Massive mistake. They had just approached Shang Jie, the terrifying tentacle mutant. As pitch-black eyes and squirming tentacles emerged, the group realized they had practically walked into a blender. They bolted, not stopping until they lost the beast. Had this entire city already fallen to the apocalypse? Before they could catch their breath, the predatory vines surrounded them. They were completely cornered. Outnumbered on all sides, despair set in. They regretted leaving the woods, wondering if Xiao Tong would still be drawing breath if they had stayed. With death closing in, the leader prepared to end his own life rather than be eaten alive. Luckily, a savior arrived just in time. Shang-Chi's massive tentacles whipped out, easily tearing the heads off the invading plant monsters. Nobody messes with his park turf and gets away with it. Let's pause and check on our main character, Zhang Xiaoyang, at the Eastern Fortress. His utopian community score is 62, with his shop points reaching 231. Our main character is now incredibly rich. His daily shop options are insane, featuring a level 2 armed deterrence box for 20, a level 2 black tech box for 50, and a level 3 superpower awakening box for 100. That superpower box was a must-buy. He immediately went on a spending spree, scoring a heavy armored jeep from the first chest. The tech box yielded a physical enhancement serum, while the superpower box granted a level 1 enslavement mark, allowing him to dominate any target of his choice. With his mutated allies keeping the peace, a brand new quest popped up to boost his points further. The system mission, Weed Control Volume 1, was officially live. He initially thought it was simple yard work until Shang-Chi warned him about the incoming army of plant monsters. Now, the mission made perfect sense. That night, fortress guards watched nervously as the tentacle mutant dragged the rescued survivors, along with a mangled plant corpse, right to their doorstep for inspection. Shang-Chi's wife and son rushed forward in pure joy. Though his scrambled mind forgot the word for wife, he fondly called her "Marry Me." Xiaoyang remained the only person who understood his broken language. The reunion was bittersweet, filled with tight hugs and emotional tears. Examining the dried-up corpse, Xiaoyang listened as the survivor leader took over the explanation. The refugees had fled City S after being violently driven out by these invading botanical nightmares. While City M was hardly a paradise, it was still far safer than the overgrown ruins of City S. Along the path, mindless zombies still wandered aimlessly. Xiaoyang ordered his men to retrieve his new armored jeep. He planned to scout the city border tonight, using the survivor as a guide to cross the dangerous terrain safely. In just a few hours, the parasitic vines had grown massive, spreading rapidly. To assess the true danger, Xiaoyang knew he had to venture deeper inside. Having just escaped that living hell, the guide was terrified of returning. But ignoring the threat was simply not an option anymore. If those plants kept growing, the steel mill would be swallowed whole, ruining their manufacturing. But before entering the jungle, Xiaoyang had a different plan. He wanted to level up his people so they could defend themselves. Mobilizing the steel mill crew, they launched a massive, multi-day zombie hunting campaign. Meanwhile, an evolved zombie mutant was lurking near the mill, feeding on other walkers. Fortunately, Xiaoyang moved in like a silent assassin to put it down. A single, clean sword slash decapitated the beast. With the main threat eliminated, his soldiers let loose, unleashing a hail of bullets on the remaining hordes. Following their leader's orders, the squad harvested valuable mutant cores from the fallen, steadily packing their bags with precious resources. Little did they know, a mutated, flesh-eating evolver was roaming the sector, craving fresh human prey. Regular zombies were no match for his strength, but with humans hiding, he was reduced to grilling rancid zombie meat. You and I know that won't satisfy him, and unfortunately, the sweet scent of fresh humans is drifting right to his nose. Under Li Hongli's rule, the steel mill flourished, but those new firearms made the guards reckless. Some foolishly left the safe zone to hunt zombies, creating the exact scent trail this giant beast needed. Salivating, he lusted for pure, uninfected human meat. Yet, he was smart enough to recognize their heavy weaponry, meaning a head-on solo assault would be highly dangerous. All right, you and I are back with our main character Xiaoyang, who is desperately trying to resist the temptation of his system shop. He wants to wait, but he is literally drooling like a starving dog. Shortly after, he gathers the squad. They have been hunting as a team for 3 days now, so he instructs Li Hongli and Jiang Qi to distribute all their hard-earned spoils, old Li objects, arguing that hoarding the resources is unfair to the rest of the crew. But Xiaoyang shuts him down immediately. The others already have plenty of weapons and ammunition. Right now, they need a small group of elite powerhouses, not a crowd of weak evolvers created by splitting the mutant cores. Luckily, everyone trusts his judgment. But as for Shan Shan, he has special plans. He pulls her into a private room, just the two of them. A bit nervous, she asks what he is planning. Little did she know, the entire nosy squad is pressed against the door listening. All they hear is the boss telling her to bear with the pain. Moments later, the door swings open, catching the eavesdroppers red-handed. Jiangxi nervously swallows and jokes that the boss finished incredibly fast. They genuinely thought those two were doing something dirty. However, it is a good thing they got interrupted. Shan Shan is clutching her arm, with an empty syringe sitting on the table nearby. So, yes, she definitely got injected. Thanks to absorbing numerous mutant cores, Jiangxi has become one of their strongest combatants. Now Xiaoyang wants him to spar with the newly empowered Shan Shan. Jiangxi refuses at first, claiming he does not hit women. In response, Xiaoyang tells Shan Shan to slap him with everything she has. He is incredibly confident his mutant core body can take it. But then, Shan Shan delivers a slap so brutal it nearly shatters his jaw and twists his face. Brother Chong and Xiao Kai quickly step in to stop the madness. Shan Shan is completely speechless. Xiaoyang had injected her with a top-grade physical enhancement serum, ranking her just below Brother Chong. Poor Jiangxi clearly thought he was much higher on the food chain. Of course, Xiao Kai cannot resist teasing him for looking so utterly miserable. Once the comedy hour ends, Xiaoyang assigns roles for the upcoming forest mission, selecting the new survivor leader as their guide. The man immediately flat-out refuses. He escaped that hellhole once and swore he would never go back. Li Cheng mocks his cowardice, but honestly, the guy actually has a very solid point. Pay attention here because this is where the story takes a dark turn. With no family left, he wants to stay in the fortress. Instead, the grieving man who lost his girl volunteers. Meanwhile, over in the western suburbs, a buff half-monster is desperately searching building after building. His brain is rotting away daily, and without fresh human meat, he will lose his mind entirely. As he beats his own head in frustration, a distant thumping noise catches his attention. Following the sound, he rips open an abandoned building door, only to find two couples getting wild. The mutant clears his throat to interrupt their little party. All four of them recognize him instantly, and trust me, none of them are happy. He quickly reassures them that he is not here to steal. Instead, he claims he brought valuable information. The women do not believe a single word, since they have all accepted their status as half-monsters. Lying is pointless, so he swears it is the truth. He has located a massive group of heavily armed, pure humans and needs help hunting them down. The other half-monsters circle him like predators, but ultimately decide to trust his lead just this once. If he lied, they would simply eat him instead. Just like that, he is part of the crew, and the redhead mutant gives him an extremely intimate welcome that he definitely is not going to reject. While that bizarre scene plays out in the city, Xiaoyang and his team reach the border. Their guide is Zhu Xingkai, the grieving man, and Xiaoyang highly praises his courage for stepping up. Xingkai admits he wants absolute revenge on the mutant plants that slaughtered his girl, especially since his parents are still trapped inside. Xiaoyang takes point. Li Chen guards the rear, while Brother Chong and Sheng Ji cover the flanks. Remember, Xiaoyang only took this highly dangerous trip to stop the mutating jungle from encroaching on his base. Saving lives is merely a secondary goal. Now, you and I both know Xiaoyang is tough, but what happens next is crazy. A wet vine drops sticky slime right on his face. Xingkai panics and screams for the boss to move. The slimy vine constricts around Xiaoyang like a python as a monstrous Venus flytrap emerges, the same beast that killed Xiao Tang. Nobody has ever survived this predator, but that streak ends today. Xiaoyang effortlessly grabs the vine and pulls without a shred of fear. He yanks so hard the creature's disgusting organs spill out. Xingkai stares in absolute shock as the slimy guts crash to the ground. The remains squirm on the dirt like a bag of wet grapes. Sensing danger, the flytrap tries to retreat, but Xiaoyang does not even bother giving chase, sending Sheng Ji to finish the job. His loyal mutant does not disappoint, launching massive tentacles to ensnare the plant. He slams it hard into the earth, forcing the desperate flytrap to release a thick cloud of green defensive gas. Surprisingly, the mist does not feel threatening and actually smells incredibly sweet. But Xiaoyang immediately grows suspicious, knowing that in an apocalypse, sweet-smelling gas is always a trap. Just as he is about to shout a warning, the surrounding light completely vanishes. The entire squad is instantly plunged into vivid, strange hallucinations, and Xingkai feels a violent pounding in his skull. Looking around, he sees his teammates frozen solid like statues. Suddenly, the nearby bushes rustle, and a familiar woman steps forward, softly calling his name. It is none other than Xiao Tang. Having witnessed her brutal death, seeing her alive completely shatters his sanity. He slowly stumbles toward her, completely torn between sheer relief and utter disbelief. The illusion of Xiao Tang beckons him closer, whispering that more survivors are hiding nearby. Meanwhile, the ruthless half-monsters arrive at the steel mill, and one immediately begins drooling at the delicious scent of pure human prey. Absolutely nothing excites him like the scent of fresh flesh. His comrades tell him to stay calm, but overwhelming hunger has completely taken over. He recklessly charges forward, aiming to feed without a plan. The factory guards spot the intruder instantly, but they are far too slow. Before they can even raise their rifles, one is brutally devoured. The chaotic gunfire quickly alerts Li Hongli. These guards have fought zombies before, but a powerful half-monster is a whole different beast. Their rifles do zero damage as every wound heals instantly, allowing the monster to keep feeding. He would have slaughtered every outer guard if Old Li had not arrived and delivered a devastating kick to his gut. The impact sends him spinning backward, but he recovers mid-air, landing right in Old Li's firing line. The foolish monster is forced to retreat. Keeping his distance means getting shot, while closing it means taking a beating. Old Li quickly orders his men to take the wounded to the medical bay. The beaten half-monster limps back to his allies, utterly humiliated and wounded. He collapses before even reaching them, but his pack shows zero sympathy, calling him too stupid to heed their warnings. He aggressively demands they stop talking and bring him flesh to heal his wounds. But this group has a strict rule: if you are weak and foolish, you get abandoned, regardless of your arrogance. Annoyed by his constant whining, one of the mutant girls crushes his neck until he goes silent. After all, fewer mouths to feed simply means a larger share of meat for the rest. The four remaining half-monsters quickly plot their entry into the factory. While the men scratch their heads, the women already have a flawless plan. Since they still look human, they can easily walk right in. Back in the forest, Shinkai hesitates, sensing something deeply unnatural about this reunion. The fake becomes visibly impatient, causing her deceptive disguise to slowly unravel. Before she can touch him, a flying blade decapitates the shapeshifter. For the second time, Shinkai must watch his beloved perish. The weapon was thrown by Xiao Yang, who had easily broken free of the illusion. Furious and shaken, Shinkai turns on the boss, but Xiao Yang forces him to look at the clearing. And trust me, you and I are about to witness the terrifying truth as the illusion finally fades. All right, you and I are jumping right into a mess of tangled vines. After snapping everyone out of their illusions, Li Cheng felt like years had passed. Even the two mutants under his watch had been totally affected. Xiao Yang figured the plant released some wild hallucinogenic gas. To find answers, he sliced the vine bundle open to study its insides, only to realize the thing he killed was just a puppet, not the actual body. With the vines tunneling deep underground, the main body was likely miles away. But while tracking the roots, he unearthed something incredibly bizarre. It looked like a giant potato or taro, probably a nutrient sac for the plant. Just in case, he tossed it into his dimensional space. Maybe it was edible? When he asked Jin Kai about these plant monsters, the guy only knew they were deadly. Old, he might know more. He was a veteran expert from the local agricultural and forest research institute. Before Jin Kai escaped, the professor was holed up in a high-rise camp. Desperate for answers, Xiao Yang changed direction to track him down. Meanwhile, back at the steel mill, the half-monsters initiated their simple plot. Red limped toward the main gate, acting terrified and exhausted while making sure her features were fully on display. To sell the act, she stumbled and collapsed near the entrance, catching the eye of a guard on the wall. The guards scrambled together, thinking a survivor was fleeing for safety, but their strict protocol dissolved the moment they stared at Red. While one wanted to report it first, another was already eager to drag her inside. Red wailed for rescue, and the gullible guard fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Watching from afar, the other half-monsters chuckled. Even they had to admit she was putting on an award-winning show. Of course, the other mutant girl refused to be outdone, claiming she could put on a much better show. Either way, Red had practically unlocked the door to this human nest. Deep in the forest, the team pushed through the dark jungle, arriving at the next city without further incidents. As they neared the old sanctuary, a voice called out Jin Kai's name. It was his Aunt Yang, peeking from behind a barricade. Normally, he would have rushed right over, but pay attention here, he actually stops himself this time. He rubbed his eyes anxiously, making Xiao Yang laugh and assure him the gas had already worn off. Across the barricade, Aunt Yang's camp was in a total panic. They couldn't tell if these newcomers emerging from the trees were hostile. Some wanted to pull Jin Kai to safety, while others doubted his identity entirely. Aunt Yang decided on violence first. Leading several armed men, she launched a surprise attack. Shang Ji could have easily slaughtered the entire group, but Xiao Yang kept a cool head and ordered everyone to stand down. Arrows flew straight at them, but our boss casually slapped them away with his bare hands. He roared at the attackers to stop, and surprisingly, the startled survivors actually paused. Jin Kai quickly stepped between both factions, explaining to his aunt that these people weren't threats. Aunt Yang warily accepted this and ordered a ceasefire. Jin Kai then explained that Xiao Yang's squad came from beyond the jungle. When she asked about the rest of the scouts, he sadly confessed that half his squad was dead or injured, including Xiao Tong. But when he begged for entry, the guards still hesitated. The real issue was the monstrous looks of Brother Chong and Shang Ji. Xiao Yang stepped forward to ease the tension, even asking the two mutants to help reassure the crowd. Brother Chong pulled off his mask, assuring them that despite his face, he was a gentle soul. Shang Ji just flexed his massive muscles for everyone to see. Xiao Yang wanted to melt from embarrassment. He really thought they would act normal. After a tense silence, Aunt Yang relented. Meanwhile, back at the steel mill, Shan Shan returned to the main gate after patrolling the western perimeter. She radioed Old Li to open up, but right before entering, her hyper-sharp senses detected a surge of raw hostility nearby. The feeling was faint and vanished in an instant as the half-monsters concealed their murderous intent. Unaware, Old Li personally opened the gate for her. Once she stepped inside, the hidden beasts finally let out a breath, realizing how close they had come to exposure. All three of them sensed that Shan Shan was a powerful, pure-blooded evolver. They were stunned, but you and I both know what these monsters were thinking, how delicious she would taste and the massive power boost they would get from eating her. Meanwhile, Shan Shan headed straight to the infirmary. Xiao Yang had placed her in charge of the infection suppressors for emergencies exactly like this. Old Li was skeptical, though. His men had been bitten hours ago without showing symptoms, meaning their attacker wasn't a zombie. Sensing their confusion, Red spoke up, claiming she knew the truth. She spun a tale about mutated humans gathering in the western suburbs to hunt survivors. Old Li had never seen her, but she sounded incredibly convincing. Shedding fake tears, Red added that these mutants were far smarter and deadlier than zombies, claiming she barely escaped on a bicycle. Hearing this, Old Li realized she might have led the threat straight to their base. Red quickly offered a tearful apology, and the guard simping for her immediately jumped in, blaming Old Li instead. Li Hongli clarified he only wanted intel on the threat, prompting Red to warn them to brace for another imminent assault. Seeing her tattered clothes, Old Li dismissed her to rest. But as the crowd dispersed, Shan Shan stayed behind, keeping a watchful eye on the newcomer. She couldn't quite explain why, but Red gave her a terrible gut feeling. Ultimately, she chalked it up to stress and recent paranoia. Meanwhile, over in City S, Xiao Yang's group reached a high-rise shrouded in thick green smog. Xiao Yang wondered why the survivors settled here instead of stronger fortresses nearby. The answer was brutally simple: anyone down on the street level is dead. The toxic green fog thickens near the ground, and breathing too much of it transforms humans into plant mutants. Only floors 10 and above are safe. They discussed this grim reality while climbing the massive stairwell. Reaching the summit, Xiao Yang finally met Professor He, updating him on the mutant jungle, the outside world, and the chaos in the neighboring city. Soon after, he introduced Brother Chong and Shang Ji to the high-rise survivors. As for other major cities or overseas territories, total silence. There was no sign of an organized government rescue. Every single survivor was entirely on their own. Xiao Yang then presented the strange potato-like root he unearthed earlier, asking for identification. Professor, he recognized it as a mutant plant tuber. Surprisingly, it was completely edible, and the key to how these survivors had kept breathing. Without a desperate food shortage, no one would have dared touch something so hideous. Still, finding a stable food source was massive. Unfortunately, their discussion was violently cut short by a sudden emergency outside. If they weren't starving, they never would have risked eating something so grotesque. But a reliable food supply changed everything. Suddenly, a chaotic commotion erupted outside, cutting their meeting short. An immense army of plant mutants was swarming the base of the high-rise. The survivors called these horrors flower carts, a name that made Professor He turn pale. This threat could easily slaughter everyone in the building today. He barked orders to the crowd. Women and children were told to retreat to the rooftop and seal themselves inside, while every capable fighter grabbed a weapon. He was prepared to sacrifice a few to save the rest. His people moved instantly, ready to lay down their lives for their home, believing Xiao Yang was too young to die. Professor, he urged him to seek shelter on the upper floors as well. Xiao Yang merely chuckled and told him not to worry. He was genuinely eager to see what kind of monster had terrified everyone so badly. The professor warned him that unless they located the main body immediately, they were doomed. The flower cart had the power to coordinate other plant mutants, likely using pheromones to direct strategic assaults. and right now, that furious main body had to be lurking extremely close by. To the professor's absolute shock, Xiao Yang threw open the window. He summoned a high-powered rifle out of thin air to test the enemy's strength, systematically sniping the advancing plant monsters from above. As expected, they were insanely durable, stitching lethal wounds together in mere seconds. Still, Xiao Yang wanted to find their limit, focusing his fire on a single target and riddling its body with heavy lead. Like the rest, it absorbed the damage before finally collapsing to the ground. Based on this quick test, it took about 2 entire magazines just to put down a single soldier mutant. No wonder they were feared. But you and I know Xiao Yang has infinite weapons in his dimensional space, and summoning dozens of ammo crates on the spot completely broke the survivors' minds. You and I are jumping right into the action as our main character tears open these nailed crates with his bare hands. Inside are Molotov cocktails, the ultimate weapon against these mutant plants, which he tells the survivors to use. Then, without saying a word, he leaps straight out the window with his 2 mutant brothers right behind him. All 3 of them dive off the 16th floor like it is absolutely nothing. They land with maximum style right in front of the grotesque plant monsters, who charge immediately. Xiao Yang does not even hesitate, slamming his fist straight into one mutant's skull and tearing its head clean off with a brutal yank. Brother Chong is just as deadly, fighting with the same insane speed and power as his boss. Meanwhile, Shang-Chi unleashes pure chaos, letting his brutal tentacles do all the heavy lifting. Professor, he finally realizes how ridiculous he was for telling Xiao Yang to hide. Up on the higher floors, Li Cheng is busy helping the survivors mop up any remaining stragglers. He takes charge, rallying the bravest survivors to grab those Molotovs and defend the stairs. For the first time in months, hope is actually alive in this building, while Xiao Yang cleans up the remaining monsters downstairs. Next, he orders his mutant brothers to harvest the cores from the dead beasts, while he heads out to find the legendary flower cart. Any monsters that slip through are toasted immediately, keeping everyone safe. While the residents secure the building, Xiao Yang follows his gut deep into the creepy forest and finally tracks down the ultimate source of their terror. The infamous flower cart, the true source of City S's green fog nightmare. Suddenly, his danger senses flare up, screaming at him to dodge a sudden, massive attack. Trusting his gut, he barely dodges a lethal strike with power rivaling Shang-Chi's tentacles. Lucky for him, he has had plenty of practice dealing with slimy whip monsters lately. Now watch closely because this monster is about to unleash its ultimate weapon. Sensing danger, the flower cart blasts toxic spores, but our main character easily avoids the trick. He takes a massive breath and holds it before the green cloud envelops him. Suddenly, the flower cart begins squirming, its bottom splitting open as disgusting. Insect-like legs burst out from underneath. The creature tries to scurry away on its creepy new legs, but Xiao Yang is not letting it escape. Channeling his power, he forms a hand seal and unleashes his powerful slave mark to bind the beast. Moments later, the survivors are absolutely petrified to see the giant flower cart arrive. Professor, he is visibly shaking, fully aware of just how lethal this twisted nightmare truly is. After casually parking his deadly new pet outside, Xiao Yang walks back in like it is a normal Tuesday, calmly asking Shang-Chi and Brother Chong if they got the cores. Shang-Chi stutters out that they got tons of loot, with Brother Chong translating the messy speech. Honestly, chatting with these 2 mutant buddies is exhausting since one sounds like he is eating rocks. Naturally, Professor, he asks the burning question on everyone's mind, why is that terrifying monster sitting outside? Xiao Yang just shrugged and said it is their new ally. To prove his point, he leads the trembling survivors outside to show them it is totally safe. Professor, he nervously touches the massive plant, asking how Xiao Yang managed to tame such a beast. Brushing the question aside, Xiao Yang asks the botanist for his professional opinion. Professor, he notes that despite mutating, the creature should still retain its basic plant instincts. You see, plants are just as competitive as wild animals. But instead of chasing prey, they battle for survival, struggling to reach the life-giving sunlight above. That explains why dense forests have so little grass underneath. The professor guesses the flower cart mutated into a monster because it lost the race for sunlight, adapting to feed on living flesh instead. Right then, the flower cart reaches a long vine towards Xiao Yang, causing Li Cheng to draw his blade to protect him. Xiao Yang just tells him to stand down and watch. Thanks to the slave mark, betrayal is impossible. The vine snakes toward his neck, and the second it touches his skin, a strange sensation surges directly into his nervous system. Let that sink in for a second. This city has become a brutal war zone where plants eat humans to survive. And now this giant beast is our main character's personal responsibility. Demonstrating absolute loyalty, the giant plant opens up to reveal its glowing core, offering it to its master. The instant it touches Xiaoyang's hand, it merges deep into his body. Li Cheng panics, but this is merely a sacred ritual sealing their pact. Wanting to test out his incredible new power, Xiaoyang casually flicks his wrist toward the trees. A burst of thick vines erupts from thin air, wrapping tightly around a massive tree. With a single mental command, Xiaoyang completely snaps the heavy trunk in half. Shangji's jaw drops, realizing those vines are tougher than his own tentacles. Meanwhile, Xiaoyang unlocks a special gardener achievement, netting himself 150 points. While City S enjoys its freedom, the Western Steel Mill faces a terrifying new threat. Red, the cannibal mutant, is setting traps that the naive survivors keep falling for. Hearing a knock, she fakes a helpless look to greet a man bringing her a late-night snack. She plays the damsel in distress perfectly, and the guy quickly falls for the act, trying to be her hero. Red leans in close, thanking him with a seductive smile that he completely misreads. When the fool lunges for a kiss, she acts terrified and backs slowly into her room. The guy quickly apologizes for rushing things, unaware that Red just wants to lure him outside where the walls are not so thin. Naturally, he happily follows her. The plan works like a charm. After a wild session outside, the poor guy is totally hooked, completely dazed by her beauty and manipulative charms. They just shared an intimate moment, and he does not even know her name yet. Suddenly, the mood is ruined when he spots his friend's jacket sticking out of a drum. Peering inside, he finds a horrific mush of blood and internal organs. Before he can scream, Red strikes, locking her deadly claws around his neck. At least he died happy, right? Meanwhile, Red's crew is lurking nearby outside the mill. Baldy smacks Musclehead for falling asleep on watch duty, having absolutely zero patience for anyone slacking off right now. They need to be sharp for when Red gives the signal to invade. As they bicker, Blondie starts getting worried that their partner has gone completely silent. It seems like Red is keeping all the juicy survivors for herself. Angered, the trio slips around the perimeter to find signs of their greed partner. Following a metallic scent, they find barrels packed with human remains, confirming Red's betrayal. Blondie proposes she sneak in using her own charms, but Baldy absolutely hates the idea. Having one greedy teammate is bad enough, so sending another seems foolish. However, Musclehead intervenes, pointing out that Blondie is their absolute best shot at infiltrating the base. Baldy finally relents, warning that if Blondie betrays them too, he will tear the place down and kill them both. With the plan set, they prepare the exact same trap. Blondie plays the ultimate damsel in distress and knocks on the gate. Immediately, the guards raise their weapons in suspicion. Sobbing, she claims she barely escaped a massive horde. The guards leer at her, thrilled to find another absolute knockout so soon after welcoming Red into the facility. They are so distracted by her gorgeous looks that they are about to let her slide, when suddenly Red runs out, screaming that this newcomer is actually a terrifying, flesh-eating mutant. Believing her lies, the guards open fire on Blondie, leaving you and me absolutely desperate to see how this brutal battle ends. All right, you and I are diving right back into the madness as Blondie takes a hail of bullets to the chest. Riddled with holes, she collapses, while the guards rush off to grab gasoline and burn her remains. But that slip-up gives her just enough time to drag herself away. Unbelievably, all three guards leave her completely unwatched while they run to report to Brother Lee and Sister Sean. Somehow, she drags her broken body all the way back to her old crew and collapses right at their feet. Terrified because she is damaged goods now, Blondie begs for mercy and promises to obey their every word. But Baldy does not care. In their brutal world, being injured means you are useless. He effortlessly lifts a massive boulder over his head with one hand, ready to crush her. They could always find another way to steal the settlement's food. But before the rock can fall, Musclehead blindsides Baldy, slashing his throat from behind in a flash of crimson. Baldy's head rolls onto the dirt. Musclehead casually licks the blood off his blade while Blondie gasps out her thanks. He generously offers her Baldy's arm and leg just enough meat to regenerate her wounds. He plans on eating the rest himself. Blondie knows it is pure greed. If she had died, he would only get scraps. By taking out Baldy, he claims the crown and the biggest feast. Meanwhile, inside the steel mill, people are vanishing left and right. The pressure is mounting on Li Hongli. After all, what kind of leader lets his own people get snatched right under his nose? Done with the mystery, Shan Shan decides to take matters into her own hands. She combs the outer perimeter of the mill and quickly stumbles upon rusted, bloody drums packed with butchered human remains. She calls her armed guards over, and they spot a torn piece of their ally's jacket in the gore. They even see Horn Dog's shoe floating inside, and Red realizes her time is up. Baldy's crew must have uncovered her dumping ground and dragged this evidence out. Shan Shan notes there were no signs of a struggle near the settlement, and the night had been dead silent. She confronts the newcomer, demanding an explanation. Knowing she is caught, Red begins to tremble as her usual manipulations fail. Without hesitation, Sister Shan draws her blade and hurls it straight at Red's vital spots. Now watch closely, because Red reacts with insane, inhuman speed at the last second, dodging the blade that goes on to absolutely shatter the trees behind her. Shan Shan was the only one who doubted Red from day one, and now she has the proof. Exposed and knowing her easy meals are over, a desperate Red lunges at the nearest guard. She whips out a hidden blade, grabbing him as a shield and threatening to slit his throat if anyone moves. Shan Shan coldly warns her that if another drop of blood spills, she dies. Red hates being cornered by a young woman. If she goes down, she is taking a few souls with her. She slowly backs away into the forest, keeping her blade pressed tight against his neck. Once she gains enough distance, Red snatches his weapon and kicks him to the ground. She fires a spiteful shot into his backside before running, while a perfectly calm Shan Shan raises her rifle to aim. She pulls the trigger, landing multiple hits on the fleeing cannibal. Even with blood pouring from her fresh wounds, Red keeps sprinting. Refusing to let her get away, Shan Shan dashes toward her motorcycle. But Li Hongli stops her, warning that Red might have partners waiting in ambush. He locks down the settlement, while Shan Shan immediately orders much stricter screening for any newcomers trying to enter. All newcomers must stay quarantined at the safe house, while she heads back to the main fortress to report the threat. Frankly, Li Hongli is deeply impressed by her cold, decisive leadership during this crisis. Meanwhile, in the S-City forests, mutated plant undead are still roaming the area. Eager to test their terrifying new abilities, Jiang Xiaoyang and Shang Shi lead the charge, ripping enemies apart with vines and tentacles. For these two beasts, clearing the zone is absolute child's play. This allows Brother Chong and Li Qing to safely harvest the cores and burn the remaining corpses. Soon, a massive bonfire of burning corpses lights up the forest. Looking at the flames, Professor, he is torn between feeling incredibly safe and utterly terrified of their savior's overwhelming power. I know what you were thinking, things are going way too smoothly, right? Well, with his team in top form, they easily guide the survivors straight to the main fortress. Uncle Sheng welcomes them back, briefing the young boss on everything that went down. Xia Yang then introduces the new arrivals from S-City, led by the brilliant Professor He from the Agricultural and Forestry Academy. For the time being, the S-City survivors will shelter in the fortress. Once preparations are complete, they will set up a brand new third settlement right on the edge of the city jungle. Just then, Shan Shan roars in on her motorcycle. She urgently breaks down the cannibal horror at the Western Steel Mill, advising them to lock down the main fortress as well. Fortunately, Professor He's people bypass the screening since the boss himself vouches for them. As for the casualties at the steel mill, Zhao Yang is not worried at all actually. He sees this as a massive win. The greater the danger to his utopia, the richer his rewards. Right on cue, Part 4 of the Villain Vanquisher mission triggers, offering 120 points to clear the western outskirts. Meanwhile, a bleeding Red barely crawls back to their hideout. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echo, making her heart skip a beat. It is a healing Blondie standing over her and mocking her pathetic failure. Desperate and cornered, Red tries to play off her betrayal as a simple misunderstanding. But after nearly getting Blondie killed, she knows a death sentence is the only fair outcome here. Blondie orders Musclehead to beat Red to death so they can feast on her corpse. Instead, Musclehead swings his heavy, rusted pipe straight at Blondie. Once again, he strikes from behind, betraying his own teammate. Blondie should have known better than to trust this freak. Realizing she is done for, she gasps out a final warning for Red. He only looks out for number one and will gut anyone for an advantage. Red does not care, as long as she lives. In a final, desperate plea, Blondie shrieks that Red betrayed them too. But to wild cannibals, words are cheap. When begging fails, Blondie desperately offers him her body. Too bad for her. Musclehead has a thing for redheads, not blondes. He crushes the life out of her with his bare hands. Then, playing his usual game, he tosses Red an arm and a leg to heal while keeping the rest for himself. Li Qing was once a cannibal without realizing it, but Shan Shan's terrifying report makes it clear these monsters are on a whole different level. They have lost all humanity, completely rabid, greedy, and addicted to human flesh. Jiang Xiaoyang files them away as a future threat. But right now, another issue demands his immediate attention. Li Qing is sent back to reinforce the steel mill and lock down its security. 2 peaceful months slip by. But deep in the woods, a starving band of survivors realizes they must migrate or rot. Grabbing what few supplies they have left, they venture into the dark woods. They move under the cover of night, hoping to avoid the active daytime plant monsters. But it is no use. A swarm of mutant plants intercepts them, instantly wiping out half the group in a brutal ambush. The terrified survivors scatter, only to get cornered. Their only escape path echoes with bizarre, grinding noises. Knowing they are dead either way, they make a desperate dash down the noisy path. After miles of sprinting, they collapse from exhaustion just as a massive tree comes crashing right toward them. They scramble back in panic, terrified of whatever beast could topple a giant tree. But as the dust settles, they are shocked to find humans clearing the forest with roaring chainsaws. Suddenly, a survivor recognizes Juxin Kai among the loggers. Shinkai is stunned to find his old friend, Liang. He quickly explains their new home in M City, but the reunion is cut short by approaching monsters. Seeing Liang panic, Shinkai just laughs it off. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next as he calmly radios in the monster sighting. Alright, stick with me here as our main character tells Liang's group to back off. Suddenly, an anti-plant squad rolls up in full gear, packed with flamethrowers. Liang and his crew are completely stunned. The squad lines up and unleashes hell, turning those mutant weeds into straight-up barbecue. The flames melt them down while the monsters scream and writhe. Li Cheng, Brother Chong, and Sheng Ji step onto the scene, but they do not even need to lift a finger for trash mobs like these. Liang is completely dumbfounded that humans could build such a powerful force, and it is all thanks to Chief Xiao Yang. But when he spots Li Cheng chilling next to two giant mutants, he nearly loses his mind. Shinkai just laughs it off, totally used to them, and invites Liang inside to finally meet the chief. The third settlement at the jungle's edge is thriving, having built a massive farm. Liang is speechless. While his group was running for their lives, these guys actually figured out agriculture right next to mutant monsters. But they are not growing normal crops, they are harvesting mutated ones. The moment Liang grabs a mutated potato, he freaks out and tosses it aside. Shinkai explains that these crops originally came from the very monsters they fight, but now they have been re-engineered into safe, high-yield food. Naturally, all of this is only possible because of Chief Xiao Yang. Professor, he led the science team to secure this food source. Thanks to Xiao Yang's connection with Flower Cart, modifying the crops was simple, and they are already closing in on their first big harvest. With clearing underway, Professor, he expands the territory while Li Cheng secures the perimeter. Now that this outpost is stable, it is finally time to hunt down the vile cannibals to the west. At the border of M City, Xiao Yang and Brother Chong walk around like they own the place. Suddenly, the muzzled mutant warns his chief that someone is stalking them. Now, watch closely because Xiao Yang knows exactly how strong the stalkers are. His plan? Feed Brother Chong. Little do they know, Hunter Red and Musclehead are just waiting to pounce on them. Before Red can rush out, Musclehead grabs her arm. Peeking from their high vantage point, he realizes they are too late. Another group of predators has already cornered their targets. A massive pack of ravenous cannibals surrounds Xiao Yang and Brother Chong, drooling over what they think is high-quality meat. This brainless pack has never run into a pure evolver like Xiao Yang before. They think devouring him will give them a massive power boost. And since Brother Chong obeys him, they assume Xiao Yang has the power to control zombies. Maybe they can steal that power by eating him, too. Red clicks her tongue, ready to back away, but Musclehead wants to watch. Less than a minute later, absolute chaos erupts below. Brother Chong tears through the enemy lines like an absolute beast, while Xiao Yang moves with icy precision, taking heads with every clean swing. The survivors of that idiot squad instantly scatter the moment they realize they are the prey. One desperate cannibal runs up the very building where Red and Musclehead are hiding, bringing danger right to their doorstep. If Xiao Yang spots them, they are dead meat. That fear instantly peaks when Xiao Yang lifts a massive steel beam like a toothpick and hurls it forward like a supersonic railgun. The beam spears the runner right through the chest, completely obliterating him. Nobody survives Xiao Yang's throws. Up top, Red and Musclehead get utterly showered in blood and gore. Sheathing his blade, Xiao Yang is quite happy with his surprise loot. High-tier cannibals like these are bound to drop perfect variant cores. Meanwhile, the two watchers up top do not even dare to breathe. You saw that too, right? With the monsters finally gone, Red and Musclehead realize their hiding paid off. Now, they get to feast on the high-quality bodies left behind. As they patrol the western ruins, Xiao Yang complains that Brother Chong is wasting food by leaving too much meat behind. Suddenly, he senses movement inside a dark, ruined building. He faces the entrance and summons his weapon. Realizing he has been spotted, a nervous man steps out with a crossbow, shakingly telling them to back off. One quick look tells Xiao Yang this guy is just an ordinary survivor. The four-eyed guy is too terrified to pull the trigger. Xiaoyang tries talking first, but the nervous man panics at a slight twitch and fires a bolt. A basic crossbow is zero threat to him. Xiaoyang casually plucks the arrow right out of midair, completely shattering the poor guy's confidence. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoyang closes the massive gap. To prevent any further accidents, he smoothly plucks the weapon straight out of the man's hands. Ignoring the man, Xiaoyang tells the others inside to come out, promising he is human. Just as expected, a dozen terrified civilians slowly emerge from the shadows. Finding it impressive they survived this long without eating human flesh. Xiaoyang decides to escort them through the night. Four Eyes explains they are heading to the Shifeng steel mill in the south. A radio broadcast said the place was taking in survivors, but they quickly realize ordinary folks stand no chance against the cannibals ruling the suburban outskirts. Eventually, they heard rumors of another powerful faction in the north actively hunting down cannibals, and the stories sounded extremely real. They call it the Jifeng base, led by a monster who can easily take on 6 cannibals single-handedly. Even so, with over 1,000 monsters out west, one person cannot protect everyone. Four Eyes thinks cannibal evolvers are solo hunters who rarely team up, though others in his group are not so sure. He insists that if they packed up, humanity would already be extinct. But another survivor disagrees. He is determined to reach Zifeng Steel Mill, hoping against hope to find his missing brother there. Actually, his fears are not completely off. The old bosses of that steel mill were absolute monsters, but their brand new ruler is standing right in front of them. Xiaoyang calmly explains that he already wiped out those tyrants and reformed the entire settlement. Hearing this, the man cries. His brother is actually Li Cheng, Xiaoyang's deputy. Trust me, you and I are about to see a wild family reunion.